He's hip, he's slick, and he's only 3 months old. He's got David Sims's smile, Ben Hosley's eyes, and the voice of Griffin Newman. And now all he has to do is find himself the perfect podcast.
So a bunch of notes. Not for what you did. You did good thing.
That is one of the more insane taglines we have ever covered on a movie.
In no part of this movie is he 3 months old.
That's true. They pretty much leap from newborn to like.
Oh my god! Incredible point off the bat.
No, even bigger point. Now
I have a lot of child development issues with this movie.
There are many points.
We're gonna. I mean, you're
logged it on Letterboxd last night. This is truly one of the richest texts we have ever
discussed. For like a dumb bullshit movie that like was a huge hit and has been a little memory hole by culture.
Watching this,
if you mention this to a 25-year-old, they have no idea.
Yeah, they're like, huh?
My brain is firing on all synapses, and I'm just like, I will never run out of things to talk about in this episode.
Now, you replaced names in the poster, right? So instead of John Travolta's smile, you said David Sims's smile. But yes, the poster says he has John Travolta's smile. I don't know where he got that, since John Travolta ain't his daddy.
Thank you.
Which this poster is misrepresenting.
Right. And then it says he needs to find himself the perfect daddy, which is kind of the central conflict of the movie.
But like if you reading the poster, you're like, well, what's wrong with Travolta? Jesus, the guy's had a few bombs, but do we need to be dragging him on his own movie poster?
It's also a wild choice that obviously the poster is just big old Mikey head, right? Chewing on the title.
He's chewing on the title. I think that's why the movie was a hit.
Oh, it definitely is.
Is the poster?
We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it.
I should bring up the poster. I'm not looking at it
this
right now.
image.
Just look. Right.
Everyone was like, he's talking?
Yeah.
I'm seeing.
It was, yes.
I'm buying.
Yes.
People probably went to the window and were like, can I have one to the baby movie? And they're like, it's not out for 3 months. And they were like, well, I'll be here. I'll put some money down now.
Highest grossing films in North America of 1989 were in order: Batman, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Lethal Weapon 2,
Back to the Future Part 2.
In 1989?
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe that's...
Did it come out?
Yeah, 1989. No, Back to the Future Part 2, and then...
Look Who's Talking.
Yeah. Lethal Weapon 2 6th.
Look Who's Talking made 300...
Wikipedia gave me false information, which this is the first time this has ever happened.
Once, as usual... Maybe I'm looking at worldwide versus...
worldwide, this movie was ginormous.
I saw on Wikipedia, $300 million.
That's the biggest thing, is like, it was huge in the United States. At the time of its release, I believe it was the single highest grossing film worldwide in the history of Columbia Pictures.
Oh, wow.
And it was Travolta's biggest since Grease.
Yeah. I mean, everything about... You cannot overstate how big this movie was. It really was just the poster. But also, like, I understand Travolta's star is dinged at this moment. Kirstie Alley, at the time of this release, is on the biggest sitcom in the world.
Yeah, but that doesn't...
The poster,
doesn't translate back.
Giant baby head... The actors' names are not above the title. They're just in the tagline. They're just mentioning he's got John Travolta's smile. Well, he doesn't.
Which means that they could be in the movie, or maybe not. We could just be naming the attributes that the baby has.
The movie goes out of its way, actually, in fact, to say that he has George Siegel's eyes, not Kirstie Alley's eyes.
Make that clear that that's the one thing he got from Siegel.
Right. He's got Siegel's eyes.
Right.
He doesn't have Kirstie Alley's voice. He does, in fact, have Bruce Willis's voice. You could argue he has Kirstie Alley's smile.
I suppose so, but like it is also, that's the other thing that's busted about the poster, where you're like, Kirstie Alley's voice is kind of what she's famous for. Where they're like, oh, he's got Kirstie Alley's eyes. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, but we know he has Bruce Willis's voice.
Anyway,
the only thing that maybe could have made this movie gross more is if the poster was just Bruce Willis voices this, and there was an arrow pointing down to the baby with the sunglasses eating the title.
John Travolta's highest grossing worldwide film of all time is Grease. Now, obviously, that's one of those sort of box office titles that's been bolstered by years of re-releases, but that still counts.
But a humongous film.
Look Who's Talking is 3. What is his number 2 highest grossing film worldwide in his entire career?
Wild Hogs?
No, that is a low 6th. I'm guessing because its international take was very low.
Right, that's a very American film. So it's not Bolt. And it's
not Battlefield.
It is Bolt?
It is Disney's Bolt, which made $328 million worldwide.
And
what the fuck is that?
Was viewed as a disappointment.
At the time, it was something of a disappointment. It's a movie. It's kind of like...
He voices a dog.
Yeah, it's like Toy Story, but if like the actor, the dog who's in a movie was Bud Light. You know, it's like it's dog who like plays like a lassie.
Talking, and what if John Travolta was the dog? No, what happened?
He's like a famous dog in movies,
like
so he thinks
like Galaxy
he's
Quest.
Magic.
Chris Sanders.
Yeah, it's a little like Galaxy Quest.
He's a Galaxy Quest dog.
Chris Sanders, director of Lilo and Stitch, which was a huge hit for Disney, develops his like blank check follow-up project, which was called, I want to say, American Dog. that was a very odd, interesting sounding film starring John Travolta and Thomas Hayden Church.
It's an adaptation of American Beauty, but about dogs.
Totally.
Yes, right. Hayden Church was playing Mina Safari.
It was a weird road trip movie with anthropomorphic animals riding the rails that sounded really cool. And Lasseter takes over Disney and immediately is like, this is too weird, fires him, and basically demands rewrites to make Bolt into What If Buzz Lightyear Was a Dog.
Right. Like the dog is so good in the movie, he thinks he's that good in real
superhero
life.
He's the star of a like dog action.
I saw it on a
TV
plane. I remember it being serviceable.
one of the most wildly okay movies ever made.
And the kid is like Miley Cyrus?
Correct.
Susie Essman plays a snarky cat.
She's good, and the cat is exactly the same as Jessie from Toy Story 2.
So
she's angry because she was abandoned by her owner.
I said the Wild Hogs was his 6th highest. I'm gonna say it's his 5th highest because they're putting Austin Powers in Goldmember here. Obviously, he's very funny.
Yeah, that's a John Travolta movie. We all associate it.
Where is Hairspray? Is Hairspray 4?
Hairspray is, so he goes, Grease Bolt, Look Who's Talking. Saturday Night Fever is 4th. Wild Hogs is 5th. Face Off is 6th. Pulp Fiction is 7th. And his 8th movie to gross more than 200 worldwide is Hairspray.
Did Hairspray fucking collapse overseas?
It didn't do great overseas. Again, that's
wild.
It's not wild. That's a very American
It's
movie.
about American racism.
Europeans do not know what's going on.
It's got good fucking songs.
Good morning, Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm dancing.
Although Hairspray
Travolta doesn't sing that song.
I know, I'm just singing it.
Travolta
Nikki Blonsky from the movie Hairspray sings that song.
Apocalyptically bad in that movie.
Travolta is the only problem in that movie.
I agree.
He's a disaster in that movie.
I think that movie is like a
Awesome.
9.8 out of 10, and then it has one radioactive performance.
Yeah, he's really bad.
Yeah.
Michelle Pfeiffer's really good in that movie, too.
You know who's good in that movie?
Everyone.
Everyone else.
Everyone
Efron
in that movie is good.
rules in it. Latifah rules. Pfeiffer
Marsden.
rules. Walken rules. Marsden rules.
Nikki Blonsky rules. You know, it's just, you look at the man's career, he's got hits. He's got hits in 4 different decades.
This is a big movie to talk about Travolta's career. This is, I'm going to say it again, one of the richest texts we've ever covered on this show. Everything is like colliding in this movie.
How many Travoltas have we talked before? I'm not counting Austin Powers. So we've covered Michael, the Nora Ephron film.
Lucky Numbers.
Lucky Numbers, the Nora Ephron film. Basic. We've really done some bad Travoltas.
We've not done any good Travoltas. That's a really good question. Maybe not.
Not seeing anything that is good that we have covered. I've seen plenty of movies that are good that we have not covered.
We have acknowledged several times my mother's description of
bovine.
John Travolta. He's so bovine.
I said that to my wife and she could not stop laughing out of embarrassment.
By the way, people have misread that as a sort of size shaming joke, assuming it was applied to late period Travolta.
Right.
My mom would say that when I was watching Welcome Back Kotter reruns, when it was the most svelte, hunky version of Travolta. And I'd say, what do you mean? And she goes, I think his face looks like the face of a cow. I want to specify that her argument was he has a cow's face.
We also covered Old Dogs at a live show.
Of course. So once again, we've covered Travolta's 4 best films.
Like the good films of Travolta's we may cover someday. I suppose we could do John Woo. I doubt it. Tarantino. I don't know. We'll do Tony Scott. He did the Taking Pelham 1, 2, 3. One of his very, very normal, sane performances, grounded.
Get Shorty we will almost definitely do.
Get Shorty we'll do
in some capacity.
Form.
Yes.
Do we have a Dominic Cena miniseries lineup so we can do Swordfish?
Hey, they just announced the 4K. Did you see that?
I'll be buying it.
Yeah.
I will be buying it.
You will have to hack onto the internet in order to buy your
while getting a blowjob. The scene in Swordfish where it's like, can you do this while getting a blowjob? I'm like, how's he? He's not getting hard with a gun to his head.
More K's than you've ever seen.
I guess we could do Sylvester Stallone.
Staying Alive.
Who directed Staying
He's been
Alive.
on a bracket.
Sorry, Hillary, that we're really going off tangent here. Yes. Well, and you know what else we'll do? We'll do Terrence Malick one day. Gosh darn it. And he's in the Thin Red Line for like 2 minutes.
Because
he was supposed to be in Days of Heaven.
Correct.
Yes.
Listen, this is Blank Check with Griffin and David. I'm Griffin.
David.
It's a podcast about filmographies, directors who had
just the kind of movie that really gets me excited.
The tangents on this episode, I'm going to call it. I'm going to point at the stands, at the edge of the stadium. This might be a Hall of Fame tangent episode. Just because of everything else this movie spins off into conversationally. But this is a podcast about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their careers, are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. And sometimes those checks clear, and sometimes they talk. Babies.
Hey.
It's the miniseries on the films of Amy Heckerling. It is not called Look Who's Podcasting now. It is called Pod Times at Ridgemont Cast, but I'm going to say, Look Who's Podcasting. It's us on this episode talking about Look Who's Talking.
Tag yourself.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
I'm Joan Rivers.
Right. I'm John Travolta's Smile.
Yeah. Do you know Joan Rivers plays the girl baby in this movie?
You have to stick around for the end credits scene in order to see.
I did not know that.
Did you watch this film?
Yeah.
And did you see that bit, but you didn't recognize it was Joan, or had you already turned off your TV and left your home?
She does say her most
You were
famous
walking the
catchphrase.
street.
It was that.
It was raining. His hands were in his pockets. We are here to talk about Amy Heckerling's, I would assume, most successful financially film.
Yeah.
Look Who's Talking, a 1989 film about child rearing and infidelity. What else is this movie about? Cab driving.
It's about
definitely
a bunch of New Yorkers being like, hey, I'm so busy.
Get out of my way!
It's about how being a flight instructor is not a sustainable career.
How
you have
you
to
can
drive
only
cabs on the
how you
side.
can only give Abe Vigoda 1 bar of candy a day. 1 bar.
It's about toupees.
So yeah, there's a little toupee sprinkled in there.
We were saying this right before we started recording. For a movie that is only 35 years old, 36 years old.
Sure, 36 years old. It's
Yeah.
the same age as my brother.
this is one of the deadest modern casts we've ever covered, in a way where I was just like, the opening crawl starts.
Look, I mean,
It is like an in memoriam reel.
no one can expect Abe Vigoda to still be alive. The man made it a long time.
He did.
He made it to like 95.
He did.
As did Olympia Dukakis, I think.
It's a Siegel
how
in a
old was-
way.
Olympia Dukakis made it to 89.
Uh-huh.
George Siegel made it to 87.
Okay.
This
Kirstie
is-
Alley, not so much.
Kirstie
Yeah, but
Alley was
even
tragically...
Kirstie Alley, when
yeah.
she died, you were like, oh man, and she was 71 years old. You're like, wow, like
So- too
time
soon.
has marched on.
I'm going to say too soon.
Of course it was too soon. I don't want people to die. Everyone should be alive.
I'm glad you got that, your stance out
And
there.
of course,
on this
Bruce
episode.
Willis has,
Yes.
retired from public life
Yeah.
due to illness. Now, Twink Kaplan still going.
Twin Kaplan's still
Oh,
going.
but Joan Rivers also.
Joan Rivers
Joan
gone.
Rivers has died.
Twin
That is
Kaplan
true.
doesn't get solo card billing. I think moves up to it in the sequels.
So you're saying that Twink Kaplan shouldn't be part of this conversation because she's on a split card?
I'm just saying. In fact, she's a no card in the opening credits, my friend. I was just watching the film and seeing these great star names appear on solo cards over incredible special effects footage of sperm. And I just kept being like, dead.
I mean,
dead.
I'm just saying. They all lived, most of the cast did at least live rich lives, which included making the film Look Who's Talking as part of the rich tapestry of their life.
And the film Look Who's Talking Too. And indeed the film Look Who's Talking Now.
Are they all in now?
No,
Like, did
I think
Vigoda make it to now?
I think Travolta and Alley are the only ones that made it.
I think
to the
Twin
last.
Kaplan's in all three.
I could see
I
Twin
think-
Kaplan being like, yeah, sure, whatever.
I
Like, I'll
almost-
fucking do it.
Well, yeah. I want to.
Look, I'm looking at Look Who's Talking now. Fucking George Siegel's in it.
Okay.
And here's someone else who's in Look Who's Talking
Abe
now,
Vigoda?
which we will be covering on our Patreon. No Abe Vigoda. Charles Barkley
I did know that.
as himself.
Oh,
Yes.
is because bark like a dog? Is that
Oh,
the
get
joke?
out of here. These people took 5 minutes making that movie. If that's what they were thinking.
I just want to say, like, this is a film that spawned a franchise, a
It did.
trilogy of films,
But
and a 2-season sitcom.
but a rapid franchise
Yep.
where the entire
Yes.
thing's contained within 4 years, 89 to 93. It's the George H.W. Bush
Yes.
era.
No.
The
Yep.
second movie came out a year after this
Yes,
one.
they were
That's
just like,
fine.
go. Like, you
These
know,
babies aren't getting any younger.
No.
14 months in between
Neither is Travolta.
releases. Right. The sitcom has already ended by the time that now is bombing in theaters. Is that right?
What's bombing
it's
in
a-
theaters?
Now really bombs.
Look. Yeah, sure. We'll get to now. Now shall be covered behind the paywall.
Now behind the paywall,
Too spicy
2 is
for
here.
him. Of course, Amy Heckerling did direct 2, but we're here to discuss. I'm here to direct you all in the discussion of Look Who's Talking.
I just wanted to. It was an interesting stat that jumped out of my head. Amy Heckerling has created 3 films that spawn TV shows.
So Clueless, of course, had its spin-off show.
Right.
With
Was
Rachel.
there a
Which was
Fast
very
Time
successful.
show?
There was a Fast Time show
Yes,
for
a
one
very
season.
ill-fated.
But JJ pulled up in the dossier. I did not know this. Out of 7 episodes, Heckerling wrote and directed 3. Now I'm like, I need to fucking watch the Fast
So
Time
go
show.
watch it.
I'm going to do it.
There's probably an I Never Could Be Your Woman, whatever that movie's called, like pitch at Stars right now, right? Someone's like, we could do
But
that.
I'm just like, this woman did quietly spawn franchises
talk about spawning
in a quiet way.
What a segue.
This movie begins with spawning.
Hey.
But who's our guest? Have we introduced
our
her?
guest today?
Okay, Jesus.
The Hollywood editor at Vanity Fair.
She's a senior editor now, apparently.
Senior
I shouldn't have called her
editor.
the Hollywood editor.
You got that lodged in my
I can't
head.
believe that you guys are fucking this up. I'm so upset.
But a more important credit that you said out loud, Hillary, while David was checking my notes here late.
I was late, yes, because of a screening.
A woman
Q train
who can do it all.
yes.
Hillary Busis. Now,
That is what it says on my card.
I just want to call it Hillary,
Hillary Busis doing it all.
Ben, early, right? Hillary, early or exactly on time?
You seemed like you were right
Exactly
on time.
I'm punctual.
Okay. I got here at 12:05 for a noon record. Okay.
Are you seeing this? Are you
I
watching
am.
this?
I have absolutely no patience for this.
There was-
You want me to do this in front of every episode, Griff? I welcome the debate.
I'm building to something very specific here.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yep.
I get here at 12:05. You had done a coffee order. I had placed a croissant. I go, oh, where's the croissant? You go, I'm sorry, I forgot it. You're like, well, David isn't here yet. And he just texts us, the train is running slowly. I was like, you know what? I'll go back out, pick up the croissant. I arrive 2 times before David arrives 1 time. Then David arrives and immediately says, sorry, I'm late, although it's your fault, Hillary. This is what I'm building up to.
Well,
That you immediately blamed your
Griff,
lateness on
we have
Hillary.
so much to talk about,
Yeah.
but to explain what I meant by that, I told Hillary I'm seeing Together. I was seeing a screening of the film Together, which premiered at South by Southwest and was snapped up by Neon, I think, right? They bought it. So it's not coming out for a while, but I make tastes. So I guess they wanted me to taste make. No, I don't know why they're showing it to me. I told Hillary this, and Hillary was like, oh, I didn't go. I was going to go, but I didn't go because I didn't want to be late for your podcast. And I was like, number one, being late for our podcast is A-okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a segment.
Right. Number two, we could have had the whole day together. And then they made my screening 10 minutes or 15 minutes late because they were waiting for someone to show up who never showed. Godot, who I guess now works at the New Yorker or something.
But you just immediately jumped
and I
to
assumed
Jock
they
Hughes
meant
mode.
Hillary, but Hillary actually had not
RSVP'd.
It was not me.
I just want to say Hillary innocent.
Hillary innocent.
It was
David
not me who was
guilty.
talking.
MTA, as it always is, mildly guilty, but they do their best.
And may I just add to some context? The room does smell of toasted ass croissant.
Bernard croissant.
Now I'm glad you brought this up and we're not moving on from this because I'm not disagreeing with the charge. But I think your wording's
pleading
a little
guilty.
No, I think the wording's a little wrong.
Your Honor, what's the word? What's wrong with
I
the word?
intentionally smoked a croissant.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh,
Cajun style,
yes.
you said. Did you hit the Cajun style button
Yeah.
on your toaster?
Hillary, do you know that I'm a pitmaster?
It was a Creole croissant.
Correct.
Okay, let's get into it.
Here's my question
This is
for the
all
room.
so relevant.
I like the fruit woods. That's what I tend to go towards rather than the nuttier ones.
Is it indisputable,
It's
and
all
then we
about
can
the
talk
wood.
about Look Who's Talking,
Yeah.
that John Travolta's last sort of meaningful role was Robert Shapiro in American Crime Story? Because obviously, after that, there is Gotti, but we're not counting Gotti, are we?
We're not
Right?
counting the
I
fanatic.
was going to say that his last
Right.
significant role was mispronouncing Idina Menzel's name, but that was before.
Was that before?
American Crime Story. Yes.
Is it?
Frozen.
Yeah, well, because Frozen is
2012.
2012.
Right.
Yeah, 2013.
That was certainly
2012, whatever.
yeah, that was his biggest cultural moment of the last 10 years. But I agree. And you know what? I thought he was so fucking good in The People versus OJ.
He's great. Everyone is locked in that, and it's a cast of lunatics.
And I was like, this is a weird casting choice, but
Well,
he's taking
him
big
and
swings
Cubist.
and supporting role and whatever. And I was just like, this is going to open up new corridors if he doesn't feel the need to be like,
And now 10 years has passed.
he's not done interesting shit with
Well,
it.
he's just been a bald guy in a Redbox action movie
Like
for 10
80
years.
of them.
Yes,
Did you read the logline for That's Amore, which is the movie that he has
we're
coming out?
all excited for the Green Book guys. That's
But a movie that has been shut down, that is
Mm.
only half filmed and is the center
Isn't
of
his last name in it Amore?
Yes. Yes.
That's Amore.
And it's a
Look who's
musical.
talking. That's
No, it's,
Amore.
I'm sorry, it's Patty Amore.
Oh.
He falls in love with
Right.
her.
Oh,
Played by
okay.
Katherine
That's
Heigl.
right. Okay.
Played by Catherine
Written and directed by the son of the man that Green Book was based on.
Yes, Nick Vallelonga, Academy Award, two-time Academy Award winner,
winner.
Nick Vallelonga,
Yes.
who loves to write movies like That's Amore and tweet whatever Bush did 9/11 or whatever
But there
he
were
was doing.
4 different controversies around That's Amore, and it might never be finished.
Right, Rust got finished, but That's Amore is
Correct.
not finished.
They stopped filming 2 years ago and have never resumed.
It's just
We're going to do a lot of Travolta career context here.
I'm just going to talk for a sec, and I'm sure you guys had the same experience I did. Maybe not, but I fire up this movie last night. I have to watch it. It's been a long week for me. But hey, 96 minutes of babies talking. How bad could this be?
Sure, America fell for it. Why won't you?
1 second into the movie, I'm like, well, this isn't what I thought the movie was, because the movie begins, well, I guess the sperm, I was like, sure, sperm.
The sperm is the thing that I remembered most about
that
the
I
movie.
sort of knew about, but Kirstie Alley having an affair with George Segal, I was just like, well, I didn't know about this. I didn't know that. I thought the movie was she and Travolta have a baby. I thought it was that simple.
Yeah.
Now, I think, know that, yes, this was not going to be a Baby Geniuses style mouth replacement, the baby actually talks movie.
Which I think,
except that there's a lot of scenes in the end of the movie where the baby's mouth is moving.
Flapping his mouth.
Which is
It is a little
absurd.
Disconcerting.
Yes, there's some interesting techniques.
But then it's
movie.
sort of a Garfield style.
That's how I described it.
Which, of course, he does have a Garfield in his crib. And Hillary, you and I are going to discuss his crib.
The baby safety in this movie
I mean, you would be sent to jail.
It's an interior monologue that only the audience can hear.
Right. And it's mostly him going like, hey, who's this lady over here? She's got a bottle. Hey, let me at it. It's basically just that.
I didn't know those came in jumbo size. A pair of breasts. That's what Mikey says.
And he doesn't even breastfeed. Why does he say lunch when he looks at the boobs?
No, we know, in fact, that she puts breast milk in a bottle.
She pumps. She openly pumps.
She's a pumper.
She's a working mom.
She's a pumper, Jerry.
I'm glad that Seinfeld didn't do a breast milk episode.
She's a pumper.
She's a pumper. And as the movie goes on, I'm like, wait, didn't Amy Heckerling, there's a whole thing with her where her kid found out that, the dad she thought was her dad is actually not her dad, and her dad was Harold
Can we just
Ramis.
zoom out and say the thing really quickly?
Right, and then I Google it, and I'm like, oh, that's what this movie is about.
Yes.
I forgot, I put it all together, and America in 1989 was just like, one ticket, please, to all of that.
What is so absurd about that, and the part that really leaps out to me, is that Kirstie Alley's character is named Molly.
Mm-hmm.
Amy Heckerling and Harold Ramis' illegitimate daughter is named Molly.
Can I just zoom out on this for a second and just lay this out very cleanly, right? Amy Heckerling marries Neil Israel, who then becomes, or at this point already has created the Police Academy franchise.
Yeah, so he'd already done America a solid.
Yes.
Yes, and he wrote Look Who's Talking 2 with Amy Heckerling.
Yes. And
not Look Who's Talking 1, though.
I think has a producer credit on this, possibly?
Nope.
No? Okay. But they are divorced by the time the second Look Who's Talking comes out.
They divorced in 1990.
Right.
And this film came out in 89.
Their divorce happens in between these two films being released 14 months apart, okay? They are married. They have a child. I'm doing a very quick synopsis here just so we can later unpack this more.
She married Israel in, not the country, the guy, in 1984. She had her daughter, Molly, in 1985.
This is a great comeback movie in the lineage of what we talk about, where she was basically coming off of two things that didn't help her career and was like, I need a movie that's a can't miss hit.
To be clear,
something that makes me undeniable.
For Hillary, Johnny Dangerously, which was basically sort of like a mild flop.
Passion Project
sort of
seen as a
forgotten.
mild flop.
And then European Vacation, which I think monetarily did okay, but nobody was happy with it.
Is the kind of, it was almost a It Ends With Us situation where it was like, this movie was a hit enough to justify a sequel, and yet everyone hated this one. The prerogative on Vacation 3 is fix it. Her and Chevy fight incessantly. Everything about it's a problem. She has a miserable experience. People don't like the movie. It's a success almost in spite of her. And she's like, I need something to get my agency back. Her and Neil Israel have a bit of looking at their daughter and doing voices of what they think her interior monologue is.
Very relatable.
Right. Doing this bit together. Her and her comedy writer husband.
To be clear, though, when Amy Heckerling says it, I'm like, no, every parent does that, Amy. You're not original. But she thinks about it
what
as
is original
what if it's a movie?
Is just being the first person to go that's a fucking movie poster.
But that's not what she did. Secretly, what she did was, I'm going to fucking get one over on Ramis.
This is what's crazy about this movie, okay?
Because I'm going to make a character based on him
Do
who's
you
the
know
most
any of this,
odious,
Ben?
disgusting man.
This is the subtext of everything that I just said. The child that Neil Israel thought was his own was actually the byproduct of a years-long affair that she had with Harold Ramis.
Is that true? That he thought it was his kid?
I believe so.
Okay, I didn't know that
think
part.
Perhaps that ultimately led.
She certainly was raised by him and was like, "That's my dad." I know that.
She certainly doesn't know that Harold Ramis is her father until
she's a grown up.
Right.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's the cause of their divorce. I don't know. We'll dig into the dossier, but they are raising the child that is secretly Harold Ramis's child. While she's pregnant, he's like, I'm going to leave my wife.
The plot of this movie is what Harold Ramis did. He was like, I'm going to leave my wife. I know I've knocked you up. I'm going to do it. And then he ended up with a third
The only
woman.
difference is that she wasn't a single mother at that moment, that she was married to another man, and they were like, we're both going to leave our spouses. And then Ramis instead falls for someone else, and Ramis is her secret father, which she doesn't know for like 20 years. So there's this incredible like synthesis of Amy Heckerling being like, this is a blockbuster movie idea. Just what a simple hook. The baby talks. And also was like, my stature's kind of dinged. I could maybe get a huge movie star to do 2 days of voiceover and sell the movie on that in a way I'm not going to get a huge movie star to agree to be the star on set every day. So that's part of the calculation. But really, this movie is her grinding her fucking axe about the Ramis thing.
And like, what a W for her that she gets to do that and have a giant smash hit that like, you know, rebounds her career.
It's like a Taylor Swift song.
And then
Exactly.
her husband co-writes the sequel.
Yeah, well, he's going to get some residuals, but beyond that, my main man, John Travolta, being like, can I hitch a ride to this weird train? And he also revives his career. Sort of.
He revives his career in 1994.
Well, but it's the weird thing with Travolta, who's had so many comebacks.
Yes.
And this is a comeback, but it's right. It doesn't make him cool.
It is financially successful, yes.
It makes him famous again.
This has always been my contention, is that like people like to say Travolta was saved from the wilderness by Tarantino. Like no one had thought of Travolta in 15 years. And I'm like, I think it is closer to pre-McConaughey Matthew McConaughey.
Right, where it's like he's still in the mix. He makes fun family
he had
movies.
A series of rom-coms that were big hits that were not respected. And I think more than anything, the industry was like, we thought this guy was going to be a serious movie star, and now he's kind of a lightweight. He is bankable. And then there's even the arc of like, look who's talking is huge. The movie, like, he doesn't do anything with it. He makes 2 more Look Who's Talkings and like 3 other bad movies.
He really only makes 1 other bad movie, which is called Shout.
White Man's Burden is shot before Pulp Fiction, but comes out after.
It's a very normal movie.
But Look Who's Talking Now is 1 year before Pulp Fiction. Like, he has this arc of like, is Travolta back as bankable, even if not legitimate? That within 4 years,
Look
he's
Who's
already
Talking
tanked.
Now is the kind of movie that you make where you're like, fine, I'll be the heroin addict in that weird guy's fucking script, I guess.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Whereas like, you know, whoever Tarantino was thinking of apart from Travolta, who's like, I'm not touching this thing. It's too violent.
This
it's too
franchise
weird.
has like rotted so quickly.
Travolta's like, I'm talking to a dog. I'm fine. Yeah. Like, sure.
Well,
What do I have to
I
do?
don't think that he talks to the dog, but the dog talks near him.
We'll find out what happens in that.
That was like the first movie I saw in movie theaters.
Is Look Who's Talking Now?
One of them.
How old are you,
yeah.
Hillary?
I was born in 1988, so I am at the same age as
you were 6
Bruce
or
Willis,
5 or 6.
Mikey Bruce Willis.
Hillary, let's do a little Look Who's Talking history cataloging here.
I would love that.
Okay, so Now is the first movie you see in theaters.
It's one of the first. The first movie I saw in theaters was the re-release of 101 Dalmatians, which was like that same year.
Mine was Jungle Book. Yeah. This is a thing we've talked about that culturally is gone.
Mine was
I think
Annie.
For many generations, the first movie a kid would see in theaters was a re-release of an old movie.
Oh, 100%. I went to that Jungle Book. I think I went to that 101. It was, of course, it was like, what else are you going to do?
Right. And if you were a parent, you were like, there's going to be like 3 of them this year.
Yeah, well, yeah.
There'll be 3 wide release Disney like reissues. Yeah.
Yes, mine was famously John Huston's Annie. It's the first film I saw in theaters, a re-release of that.
I was going to say.
Weird movie.
When you saw Now in theaters, am I correct in assuming that you had not seen the first 2? That this was just your parents being like, a talking dog movie for Hillary?
I mean, I think it's like, yeah, there are 3 children and we have to do something with them. We will take them. And,
right. The dog talks because Milo and Otis were hanging around.
Yeah.
Some dogs were Homeward
Bound was a big touchdown.
And if an animal talks, a child is there in the early 90s.
Which is funny because this is not a children's movie. Look Who's Talking.
This is not. My guess is that Now has a more PG flavor. Like, right? Like they probably like...
If I can sidebar here quickly, to my great surprise last night realized that I have never seen this movie.
Oh, I knew I had never seen this.
The reason I find that surprising is in my like parents' very overprotective media control as a child. We had the Disney Channel, and this was an era before Disney Channel had much original programming. Certainly didn't have original movies.
It was all reruns of shit.
And they were just like, Nickelodeon's too cynical and too dark. Like there were all these things that they banned that were for kids. And they were like, anything that's on the Disney Channel, we assume is safe. And Disney Channel had this weird rotation of like left-handed, less like sequels and flops that they would air all the time that I would see so often where like I have seen, I think both Look Who's Talking Now and Look Who's Talking To 15 times, but have not seen them in 30 years.
But you have never seen this one because this one probably
I
was
just
expensive.
Two adults.
I had also seen
But also the
first
Disney
one.
Channel couldn't
Afford
afford
it.
this one.
But Look Who's Talking To, I remember on like my 11th or 12th viewing, my mom walking in and being like, this is not appropriate for you. Like clocking like, this one's weirdly
Sounds like your mom's head was really on a swivel.
Yeah.
The 12th rewatch, she's like, wait a second.
By now, it is like, in my memory, absolute kiddie shit.
It's like, yes, yeah.
And 2 is the midpoint, but 2 has
but 2 has a lot of like poop jokes, right? Like 2 is a little more juvenile, I
2
think.
I remember has crack pipe shit, which
Well,
we'll
hey
we'll
man,
get
it was
to.
it was 1990. It was in the
90s.
news.
Yeah.
Right. But yes, it's
yeah.
more
But it's like when my mom walked in on me playing GoldenEye 007 on my Nintendo 64 and was like, "Are you looking through the eyes of a man holding a gun who's shooting people?" And I was like, "I'm James Bond."
I was at a GameStop and there was a mother with 2 children, like a teen girl and a younger boy, probably like 8 or 9, right? And the girl wanted to buy something. And the boy was like on his absolute best behavior, being a little polite gentleman, being like, "Mother, could I perhaps bother you? It would mean so much to me if you bought me one game. I'd love to play a game." And he hands the game to her and she's like, "It's used. How much is it? Only $20. Sure, fine." And then the teen daughter walks up and is like, "Are you really going to let him play a game that's all sex and drug dealing and
What's the
guns?"
game?
And the mom turns around and is like, "Timothy, you get right over here!" and goes ballistic and then calls over the GameStop employee. And it was Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah, well.
That girl must have felt so proud of herself.
And she was
How old
like,
was the kid?
the kid was like 8 or 9. And he was like,
It's a little
he was like,
borderline.
"Mother, it's a driving game."
Yeah, I will be following the rules. Yes, some break the rules within Grand Theft Auto.
David, this kid made that exact argument and won
don't
his
have to
mom
do it.
over.
Good for him.
It was
Oh.
incredible.
Good job, kid.
He was
That's a
like,
twist.
"I would never even go to the sex stuff." And she's like, "In that case, I will buy you the game. But if I walk in and there's sex stuff happening." But yes, that's what it felt like. Okay, so do you remember when you saw the first 2, or did you ever?
I mean, that's the question. I remember having seen this movie. Most of what I remember, again, is the opening. In my
Which 2 opens the same way. So when it
Yes.
started, I
maybe
was
that's
like,
maybe
"Oh, I've
even
seen
just
this."
that's what I'm thinking of. Maybe
Yeah.
I've seen 2 and I assumed it was 1.
Well, I'm mentally linked to my sperm, so whenever I put it anywhere, I can see it swimming. So it's a very normal image for me.
I was under the impression that the beginning that sequence was like real footage of the inside.
Oh, like as
of
a kid,
woman.
you're like, yeah,
like Nova.
They got like a
yeah.
medical camera, right? Yeah. Like,
Pretty good effects.
And realizing that it was like a puppet was a big disillusioning
I
moment.
think the effects are amazing, except sometimes the puppet is no good. You know, like sometimes it's fine and they're kind of obscuring him
But I
enough.
like how weird the puppet
Me
is.
too. I like all
it's
of
true
that.
that an actual human fetus does look insane.
Yes.
That's right. I mean, exactly. Don't worry about real. They look
And
weird.
in my memory, 2 has even more puppet. The 2,
Cool.
like
Can't
resets
wait.
the clock and is like, "We're not going to start with the daughter being born.
Right. Sure.
Right. We're going to slow this back."
We're going to show conception because that's what you came here to see.
Look, let's say it is a good ending gag to have them kiss and then cut to the sperm again.
It's a great ending gag.
John Travolta is that
Absolutely.
virile.
It's immediately.
Hey, yeah.
It's a great callback.
Yeah, of course. Travolta's fucking oozing tea in this movie.
I run very hot and cold on Travolta. but
I'm realizing hot.
I think this is both such a good movie star performance from him and such a great example of what I would call a movie star movie, where you're like, it is so much the 2 of them and their charisma and their chemistry in a way that sells a ton of shit that makes 0 fucking sense. And in so many ways, I'm like, that is the ultimate power of a movie star, not like you do a good job in Killers of the Flower Moon because you have a well-developed relationship with Martin Scorsese. Like, that's good acting from a movie star. Movie star shit is just like nonsense that you will through charm and energy
This
into
movie's
like when he abducts the baby
There's-
and takes it to the airplane hangar, she should have him
He could have just
arrested.
left a note. Why didn't
He
he
didn't
leave
even
a note?
leave a note.
Leave a note.
There are
Hey, took a baby out to hang her. See
We
you
wanted to
later.
check out some tits.
Yeah, right.
Beyond the fact that she doesn't have him arrested, there are 20 moments in this movie where the actions of the John Travolta character should cause the entire audience to stand up and demand a citizen's arrest. And yet, you're like, I get why you'd want this guy hanging around.
This film.
Pretty fun.
I'm going to open the dossier, actually. Okay, so Amy Heckerling's 2 films were very, as we said before this, were very difficult experiences for her. European Vacation, especially, was such a train wreck. And working with Chevy Chase, who in every other project I've heard is a really stand-up normal gentleman, but apparently in that one there was
Great
a little
reputation.
tension, right? It had broken her dang brain.
I like some of the quotes that JJ included were like, I'm not going to get into it, but I had difficulties with certain cast members. And I'm like, oh, yes, Beverly D'Angelo, notoriously difficult. Whereas everyone who's ever worked with Chevy Chase immediately walks off set and into inpatient treatment and debates whether they want to work ever again.
Oh my God. Is there one story in history, we'll talk about this on that episode, where it's like someone's like, he's a stand-up guy, and he always called me like when my kids got married, or like, it's like some nice story about Chevy Chase.
I genuinely
I've
don't
never
think
heard
so.
anything like that.
I think there are people who like tolerated him well. And I think like even Dan Harmon would be like, there were moments where he could be so kind and generous that were confusing. Like the people who complain about him the most will sometimes give him. And yet 2 times I saw him do something weirdly nice. No one has ever been like, yeah, we get on like a dream.
Paramount offers her a film called The Woofy Boys, which was going to team the writers of Revenge of the Nerds with the comedy duo of Michael O'Keefe, Academy Award nominee, and Paul Rodriguez.
Not Academy Award nominee?
No. She doesn't make that film. It doesn't work out. It did come out, I think, and it was a flop.
But it's a dark night of the soul moment where she's like, these are the things I'm getting offered. And she has made this real like career choice of post Fast Times. I don't want to get pigeonholed into the like female coming of age teen sex comedy.
And nonetheless, of course, she does develop the Fast Times television show for CBS. And that is the first time that she writes since her student film days. So I guess it does get those juices flowing a little
She
bit.
said she liked working on the show despite the show not being a success. But I do have to imagine there's some degree with her of like, she makes this Johnny Dangerously choice. I'm going to zag. I'm going to do something to branch out and like avoid the type casting
She has a baby.
from the industry.
She starts doing the bit with what's his pants.
I was just going to say, though, while Johnny Dangerously bombs and European Vacation is disliked, she's watching the entire like teen sex comedy explosion, which she's opted out of. Like, I'm sure a bunch of these scripts that she rejected are now huge hits.
There's nothing that's as huge, though. Like, what's a movie from the 80s that she would be like, I wish I made that? Like, they all suck. They do. They suck.
I disagree with them all sucking.
Well, which one's good?
But I think more so,
Wait,
I'm
like all the John Hugheses, you say so?
David dislikes John Hughes.
Well, I actually wasn't thinking of those as sex comedies.
So then
those
let's-
aren't sex
Then
comedies.
let's remove sex
I'm
comedy. Let's
thinking
go
about
teen
teen
comedy.
movies, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
right. I mean, sure. But John Hughes is an auteur, obviously, in his own right.
I think that's
You
the
know.
bigger thing, is that like she's probably looking at what happened with John Hughes
Well,
and
she also
being like,
directed a John Hughes script, European Vacation.
I know.
Which she didn't enjoy. Right.
but it's like, should I have been doing something like this and crafting my brand in a way that is consistent?
I don't think
know.
so.
I don't
Because
know.
what she says is she starts doing baby voice with her husband and her new baby. And she's like, this is a movie. But she has the thought of like, I can see how this would be a hit, but I kind of want to do like Mean Streets. I don't want to do a cute family movie. It's one of those things where she's like, I'm a new mother. This is the idea I had. I think I should pursue it. But there's a side of her that's like, that's not cool. Like, that's not, it's probably like, I don't want to do the Whoopie Boys and I don't want to do Talking Baby, but Talking Baby, it is.
Look, it is a big thing. And I think it was more so in this era still than it is now. But there is a sometimes under-discussed distance between things that are successful and things that are respected by the people who greenlight movies. Where as much as people are crass and like, we want to make hits, there is that kind of thing of like, there's the kind of hit that everyone in the industry looks down on, which she has to know, like, even the best case scenario of the Talking Baby movie, I will be the person who made the Talking Baby movie.
Right. The Critics Awards will not be flowing in for Talking Baby.
And they're
movie.
probably going to offer me like other Talking Blank movies if this is successful.
Although what is so wild about that too is the talking baby part lifts right out.
It
You
is.
really don't need it.
You don't need
What
it.
is really fascinating is that it's maybe like 10% of what this movie is doing.
It's
Yeah, like
it's
you said,
just
Bruce
a
Willis
dash of
spent 2
seasoning.
days maybe. Like I feel like it could have been like a couple hours.
It was
he had very little
They
to do.
actually just mic'd a dinner that he had. It was actually, he didn't even have a script. They were just, you know,
Waitress walked over. He
It was
goes,
like how they-
whoa, those come in jumbo size?
Well, no, it's because lunch. Yeah.
it was how they
Regress.
it was how they did the kid in Monsters thing. They just followed him around with like a boom mic.
Into the toilet. Yeah.
The film was originally called Daddy's Home.
Now, that would not have been successful.
No, especially not if it's the same poster.
I truly, as we were saying before, like 50% of the box office is just the big baby head and look who's talking as the title in a very Honey, I Shrunk the Kids way, where you're like, you've told me everything I need to know in one image.
To speak to what Hillary just said, Heckerling thinks no studio is going to really be that interested in a movie about a woman having a baby and all her issues. Nobody's going to care. But if you make it about a boy baby who's voiced by Bruce Willis,
Then we
even
can
if that's
Trojan
not
horse
that
in.
crucial, yes, that is kind of what she's
This
doing.
is what I love about this movie.
She's Trojan horsing in a little shiv to old Ramis as well, you know?
It is like such a weirdly personal movie. But beyond that, you're also just like, there aren't even impersonal versions of this movie being made at this point. Like, who's making a movie, like a broad studio comedy that is like trying to deal with, in some degree of emotional realism, the struggles of a single working mother in a big city?
Now, with Ramis, the only thing that's a little different is that it's not like he had a fling with a third woman. The third woman he ends up with is Erica Mann, who is then his
He's
wife
with-
for
right.
the rest of his life.
Yes.
So who knows what happened there, like in terms of like who was the most in love with who during this like messy 80s.
It's not a love competition.
So the parentage of Molly was a secret until 1999. Ramis told his daughter Violet that she had a half sister.
When Molly was born, Ramis took Violet to the
And she
delivery
wrote, she
room.
wrote about this in her memoirs.
Right.
There's an excerpt.
Her book is
Vulture.
very good.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. And then there's a big excerpt from it. But so it basically doesn't go public until the memoir. Is that
And
correct?
Right. Molly does not learn this herself until
Yes.
years later. A meeting is arranged when she's 18 years old with her and Ramis.
But Violet.
However,
sort of,
if
like,
you've seen
yeah.
Look Who's Talking, yes, there are subtle allusions to this situation in the text of the film.
If you squint, you can find them.
Exactly. Martin Brest, this is the great quote, who is Amy Heckerling's ex-boyfriend, ex-boyfriend. You know, they dated back in the film stool days, calls her up and says it's the most profitable private joke ever.
I mean, that is what is like incredible about this film.
Apparently, Amy Heckerling would handwrite her scripts.
Yeah.
What a psycho.
That's serial killer behavior.
Yeah.
There was a
exactly.
really good New York Times piece about her like 10 years ago, I want to say, as sort of like the forgotten queen of the comedy who still lives in New York City in the Upper West Side with her mother and stays up until 5 o'clock in the morning drinking coffee and handwriting scripts. And it was sort of framed as like, why is no one greenlighting Amy Heckerling things anymore?
Oh, did they say vamps or?
I think it was post-vamps.
Warner Brothers,
We'll get to
Disney,
it.
and Orion all passed, but
Mhm.
TriStar is interested. They think the script needs some work. They work on the script. I don't know. Who cares?
Who cares?
It doesn't seem like anything. It's not like fucking, you know.
Well, I'm just
Tom
surprised I
Stoppard
didn't
came
see
in.
like the final version and be like, the baby doesn't even talk that much.
But this is what I think is so fascinating is this is still an era of movie marketing where you can trick people into going to see a movie, giving them an incomplete picture. And if they still end up liking what they see, they won't take to the internet and like burn the world down because the internet also doesn't fucking exist. Like the trick is get them in the theater with the talking baby thing. Hope that the grown-up drama works enough that they're not angry.
Jonathan D. Crane, a producer of many Blake Edwards films, but also John Travolta's agent, gets to be the producer of this movie because he's interested. And I guess he has some comic talent. The budget is just $8 million, $4 million of which went to Travolta and Alley and stuff. So this is a pretty cheap movie.
This is an $8 million movie that made $300 million worldwide.
Yes. But basically, Crane is like, I can give you Travolta. Great. And I can keep the budget low.
Does he rep Alley as well?
I don't think so. But
Both of them are Scientologists, pin in that.
Yes, he does. moved the production to Vancouver. I'm sure you noticed, guys, that this film, despite being set in New York, does not have that New Yorky, vibe.
But there are a lot of people yelling in like outer borough accents.
Honk, honk, beep, beep. But like, I kept trying, like squinting me, like, what street is this? And then I realized, like, oh, this just wasn't.
It's Vancouver Street.
Yes.
Right. Anytime New York is specifically non-specific, I'm like, this smells like Vancouver to me.
Heckerling, when she realizes that Travolta is interested, kind of rewrites it a little bit. My guess is kind of gives it a little more of a Vinnie Barbarino spin. I mean, she does, right?
Sure.
And she throws in a couple dancing things because she likes him dancing. Who doesn't? Kirstie Alley had broken out pretty recently in Cheers because she joins Cheers in 87. So like it's only a couple years into her Cheers run.
And what year is Search for Spock? Or no, she's in Wrath of Khan.
She's in Wrath of Khan, which is 82.
I'm sorry. Okay.
And obviously she rocks in that. Now, in a 2012 interview, Alley described Travolta as the greatest love of her life. Okay. She was married when she made this movie to Parker Stevenson. But she, quote, said, "Believe me, it took everything I had inside, outside, whatever to not run off and marry John and be with John for the rest of my life."
It would have been very look who's talking. It would have been very look who's talking of them.
It would have been very a lot of things that happened.
Is he already married to Kelly Preston?
I don't know, but I'm just going to offer this quote, and the audience can make of it what they wish. One of the ways Travolta charmed Alley during their first on-screen kiss, Travolta kept breaking out into a Barbra Streisand impression, singing "Papa, Can You Hear Me" from Yentl. Mikey the baby was played by 4 different babies. Great.
John Travolta marries Kelly Preston in 1991.
Wow.
Okay.
So he was available.
So he was on the market.
Bruce Willis got a percentage of the box office for his role. He probably made estimated about $10 million for this movie.
Incredible.
We showed him this footage of babies and he said, "Okay, I get it." Yeah, I'm sure he did. You know what else he got?
$10 million.
But I think he improv some stuff. He had fun.
It definitely feels like a guy who thinks he's funny but isn't a comedian being like, Amy, let me just riff.
Olympia Dukakis had just won an Oscar for Moonstruck and is in this role as the lady
playing
for
the
Moonstruck.
same role.
She's good at that.
When are you gonna find the man?
Yeah, Kirstie Alley's sister Cher does not show up, but we wouldn't be surprised to see it.
And the visual effects are done by Todd Masters, who works later on Tales from the Crypt and Addams Family Values. And they sperm was vinyl sperm and little fishing weights, and they dumped it in a tank and they had an underwater camera. Man, it's fascinating. Heckerling was concerned that the film would come off a little pro-life, right? A little too. There's always a problem with any pregnancy movie. It's a problem with Knocked Up. It's a problem with Juno, where it's like
in this movie
the character
they say,
can't have an abortion
but
because
they
then
say
the movie
the
won't
word
happen.
in this movie,
They do say
which felt pretty progressive for 1989.
Yes, although it's mostly Siegel being like, "Oh, I wouldn't want you to do that."
I also
look at my marble desk. How the fuck did that thing get moved in there?
I think there are absolute logic gaps in this movie that you could pick apart for.
It makes sense that she wants to have a baby.
I was going to say, I think by the end of the film, you completely get her decision because there is this part of her that thinks like Siegel will eventually come back around. Like that she thinks having the baby will ultimately win him over, that she clearly never wants to extinguish her flame for him.
Nobody had written "He's just not that into you yet."
Exactly.
It wouldn't come for 20 years.
Yes, it took Greg Behrendt to solve that one.
Film was shot while TriStar was being purchased by Sony. Sony was afraid to even release this movie. They considered Travolta box office poison. Heckerling also thinks that like whatever they, were sexist. Just kind of like, but the film tested so well that it got a wide release. There was also a plagiarism lawsuit
brought by a baby.
It's just something of like, hey, you had a meeting with me about my movie, which was called Special Delivery. Settled amicably. I don't know. Like, it's just one of those things where I feel like the studio.
You can only write one movie about a woman. There's only one story that a woman can tell.
But I want to just do this quickly, okay? John Travolta, basically like small supporting part in horror film Devil's Reign, then Carrie, then Saturday Night Fever. He's one of the youngest people ever nominated for Best Actor. Then Grease. Then it's like immediately, moment by moment, okay. Then he has like Urban Cowboy, Blowout, Staying Alive, which is...
Blowout's a flop, but he's good.
Blowout's a flop, but he's great in it, right? Staying Alive, which is
Giant
like...
Bomb.
Yes. And is sort of like a point of mockery. And then immediately the run after that is so fucking bad. Like you've gone from like, obviously all of this, Welcome Back Kotter is happening, right? He has his like sort of TV idol dumb, but
he
then
stopped
like,
doing Welcome Back
drops the
Kotter
movie.
in the 70s, yes.
Right. So Welcome Back Kotter, that movie run, and then it's like Two of a Kind, his other movie with Olivia Newton-John.
Very bad.
Perfect. The Jazzercise movie with Jamie Lee Curtis. The Experts.
I don't know that one.
I mean, just look at the poster.
Never heard
it's
of
like
it.
him with a
Experts.
mullet.
He's going, hey!
Yeah.
It's him and Air Gross, the big two.
Two NYC guys get jobs starting a nightclub in small town USA. They don't know it's a spy training model town
and that
in
film,
the USSR.
That film has Kelly Preston in it. So my
that
guess
must be
is
where they met.
That's where they met. That's
Then-
right.
Right. Chains of Gold, which I've never heard of. Like you just like
That's a
series-
TV
Oh,
movie.
I'm sorry. Okay. Experts is the last thing right before Look Who's Talking. So he's coming off like a horrendous run. Then Chains of Gold TV movie in between Look Who's Talking and Look Who's Talking 2. Then something called Eyes of an Angel.
Eyes of an Angel was not released in theaters until after Pulp Fiction came out.
Wild. But that was made in between Look Who's Talking 2 and Look Who's Talking Now. Shout, which is his like inspirational music teacher movie. And then Pulp Fiction. Like the Look Who's Talking things were the only things keeping him relevant for 10 years, even if they didn't make him cool.
Do you like John Travolta? I'm pointing at Hillary Busis.
I mean, who doesn't? He's
I
very,
think some people don't like John Travolta.
When I dislike him,
I don't know.
He drives me insane.
you think some suppressive persons don't like
That-
John Travolta?
Yeah, you're right. Those people aren't in touch. They're overloaded with feelings.
I'm watching this movie,
Yeah.
and I really have the realization of like, I love John
You texted
Travolta.
us.
He
That was
fucking is working his charms on me
It's
so
really
hard
great to
in
see
this
him.
movie.
Yeah.
It really is.
When he is good, I find him undeniable. When he is bad, few people annoy me.
When's he bad? I mean, like, I believe you, but like, what's an example?
He just gave like 50 examples.
Yeah.
Well, he's not bad
No,
in
I
those
would
movies.
say-
Those
look,
movies are bad.
I would say
He's fine.
most of the movies that we have covered him on in the show. I do not like him in Basic. I do not like him in Lucky Numbers.
Basic is
I
a
don't
really out-of-pocket performance.
like him in Michael. Those are all him trying weird things and I think really not working.
I don't mind him in Michael. I forget where I sort of
He's
settled
not
on him
terrible in it, but I don't think he totally works. I
Yeah,
obviously
love
love Old Dogs, but must acknowledge this performance, and that is demented. I think his Hairspray performance is like a war crime.
That is
That's
an
a-
all-time low.
Hairspray is just a mistake, I think, on everyone's part. Like, he shouldn't have been. I get why they thought of him. I get why he
So
wanted
bad.
to do it, but it doesn't make any sense.
But like
It doesn't make sense for that movie.
Gene Hackman's recent passing at the time of this recording, I watched Get Shorty. I do think that is my single favorite Travolta movie star performance.
Get Shorty.
He is
he's so
extraordinary
phenomenal
in
that.
that,
Yes,
And it is such like quiet, controlled work that is just charisma and presence. When he works, I'm just like, you can't argue with this. But he sometimes just has the absolute weirdest instincts.
I mean, and sometimes those work for it. Like Robert Shapiro in The People versus O.J. Simpson is a crazy. I mean, that's a crazy performance that he's giving. But and like his like very frozen like Easter Island face.
Yep.
Like, but it works.
And he's making like very big expressions
Yeah.
and like playing
Pressure?
the eyebrows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what friggin' stinks? Phenomenon. He's
Phenomenon's not
that's a
good
bad movie, and he's kind of bad in it.
I confuse Phenomenon with Michael.
They're kind of
They're the same movie.
No.
Pretty
Michael
much the
is
same.
sort of Michael's a comedy version. Phenomenon is like Flowers for Algernon with
it's
ESP.
very serious
Yes.
and saccharine. He has a brain disorder. He's got brain illness that gives him magic
he's a
powers,
regular guy,
but is killing him.
and then he gets like hit by lightning or whatever,
Oh.
and
then he becomes a genius?
becomes a super genius.
Yeah.
He gets like all kinds of magic powers, and it slowly kills him.
My
It's a
parents took
very
me
dull movie.
to see that movie in theaters, and I thought the title was Menomina.
Yeah, that's what the title is. The title is Menomina.
That's what I thought. And then when they were like, no, it's Phenomenon. And I was like, oh, so on the Muppet Show, they're saying Phenomenon. So then when I would watch the Menomina sketch,
It's just misunderstanding turtles all
Yeah.
the way down.
100%. But yeah, no, I think he's a very strange movie star. And it's also like, it is interesting that like once Pulp Fiction happens, he has like a pretty fucking like bulletproof run for a number of years there. Even shit like Phenomenon getting to $100 million.
What it's called Menomina.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I would not say that he has a bulletproof run, Griffin. That is not true. But I would say that Get Shorty was a hit. White Man's Burden was not. I
Sure.
would say
that
that
was
Phenomenon.
shot before.
Oh my! This guy's obsessed with how White Man's Burden was shot before Pulp Fiction.
That is his burden.
That's
to
my burden.
Remind you of that fact.
Griffin
It's
Newman's
Newman's burden.
Michael and Phenomenon, I feel like, are both movies where it's like they make money but aren't popular. Broken Arrow
They
is
both make like 97, 100, right?
yeah, like somewhere in there.
He doesn't like
worldwide.
totally hit the bottom until Battlefield.
Right, no, but I'm saying like
I mean,
Broken Arrow is similar, where it's like it's a hit, but you kind of wish it was bigger. Face Off, everyone's happy again, but let's not forget Mad City, She's So Lovely.
Okay,
right? You know,
those
where
are
it's like
misses.
starting to get Face Off is a hit. Civil Action doesn't do well, is sort of mildly respected. I like that movie.
General's Daughter is a weird hit.
Primary Colors also doesn't do
Okay,
well,
so-
but he's good in it.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Where
But
it's
you're
like,
right, no.
and then, but then
already
General's
by the late
Daughter,
90s.
which is a sick movie that
Yes.
sucks,
Right.
right, kind of cruised to 100
makes
mil.
like a boilerplate 100 mil in the middle
And
of the
then,
summer.
of course, what happens here in 2000? I'm seeing he made some very normal movies, Battlefield Earth and Lucky Numbers.
Yeah. Right.
And
That's
then,
wheels completely off the wagon.
and yet he keeps being a star. You like that should be so hobbling to make Battlefield Earth and Lucky Numbers, where it's like all sides of you are despised, right? But then it's like, all right, Domestic Disturbance is bad. Swordfish kind of made money.
yeah.
Well,
Basic
he's
did
it's too big
okay.
to fail. Like he's still going to be a movie star. even if
Ladder
his movies are bad.
49 did okay.
Yeah.
You know,
He's
like
become
he's kind of hobbling along all the way to Wild Hogs, where people are like, he's back.
He's
sort
been
of.
right. He enters a period of being a B-list movie star with A-list recognition. Like he's consistently getting a movie to like $50 or $60 million
And he
without a
probably
lot
is
of
someone
respect.
who plays well overseas, so you can
Yeah.
always get some money on your international
And I think
rights.
like, I've heard that crews love him, that the studios love him, that he's very amenable. You know,
The opposite of Chevy Chase.
yeah.
Sure, that's cool.
But yeah, 2007 when he has Wild Hogs and
His wig
Hairspray,
makers love him.
there was that
His
moment.
E-reader
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
meter operators love him.
What are you talking about?
Hmm?
He wears a
David,
wig?
Oh, no,
David.
the guy's hair is au naturel every single
David,
time.
the only reason he chose to shave his head is because he was inspired by his good friend Pitbull. End of story. How many times does he need to say this? We all know how much hair he had. He just thinks it would be cooler to look
If we're
like
talking about
Pitbull.
hair, we should really talk more about Kirstie Alley.
So
though.
Kirstie Alley.
Kirstie Alley's hair deserves above the title billing
so
in this movie.
gorgeous in this movie.
It is a special effect in
It
and of
is
itself.
so large, and yet not in that
lustrous.
80s way of
Yeah.
like, oh, she's got this big done up hair. No, it's no.
I feel like you would
It's-
touch it and it would be like
Well,
feel like real hair.
It feels
It's
like
my
they're
favorite
trying to tamp
Seinfeld
it down and it's fighting.
My Seinfeld bit, like, to invoke George again, where he's like, "How big is her hair?" And he's like, "Big." And he's like, "If I stuck my hand in it, would I be able to get it out?"
Yeah, it's big, but not in a Jewish way.
Here's my. I'm going to call you out, Griffin, but not in a like accusatory way. But I feel like you don't like Kirstie Alley because you're such a Shelley Longhead. Because when we did our Wrath of Khan commentary, I remember you kind of kept being like, "Yeah, but she was no Shelley Long. Sam and Diane was better than Sam and what's her
Kirstie Alley
name?"
didn't tell Shelley Long to leave the
No,
show.
What if
no,
she did?
no. I
Gotta go.
I feel like I for years didn't watch the Rebecca era because I
Rebecca.
felt such solidarity. And I
Shelley Long being what,
with
rich
Sam
and
and
famous?
Diane being the greatest romance of our time.
We're talking about Cheers. Just in
Our
case
time being
someone doesn't-
35 years ago. When we did the Trek commentaries, I want to say I had maybe only recently finally gotten through the Rebecca years. And I just feel like the show is kind of a shadow of itself at that point.
Well, she's coming in like season 6.
But also her run is longer. Like that's the wild thing is the show runs so long where I'm just like, the show's kind of running on fumes. I think she's good on the show. I don't totally like the way they write that character.
Well, they didn't know what to do with her.
Yes.
She's like a boring straight man for like a while.
But they also do the weird, look who's talking thing where they're like, she's obsessed with a rich man who will never leave his wife for her.
That's just the
she's-
vibe that Kirstie Alley gives
That was
off.
her thing. So I think at the time of the Trek commentaries, I was holding it against her a little more while trying not to feel like I was explicitly holding against her. Watching her in this, I was just like, Kirstie Alley's fucking good.
She rocks in this
She
movie.
rocks
She's so charming.
in this
She's
I
so
enjoy
watchable.
her in this movie.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think so what, obviously, I guess I like her the most as Savik in the great film, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. I really enjoy her on Cheers.
Yeah, I think
was
it's a very good performance.
I was a Veronica's Closet watcher as a kid. I think that's probably how I first knew of her.
Maybe the single least surprising thing I've ever heard about you.
That I opened the closet. I took a peek. I took a peek.
He checked out the rack.
No, it's just like I watched any sitcom.
The rack on the closet, I'm saying,
Right.
like the coat, like the
Yes,
Thank you
not
for
her
clarifying.
boobs.
No.
No, I watched any sitcom.
No, you just keep the TV going. You just like, keep NBC on or whatever.
Right. So I watched Just Shoot Me. I watched fucking, what was the one with
Suddenly
Shields?
Susan.
Suddenly Susan.
Yeah.
I watched this.
Right, Caroline in the City.
And they all had the same kind of vibe where it's like, it's Manhattan. We're yelling at each other. You know,
Grace
right? Like
Under
Sybil, Grace Under Fire. Grace
Yeah.
Under
Spin
Fire, at
City.
least. Oh, well, Spin City's good.
Is it?
Spin City.
Spin
Spin
City's
City is
good.
All right.
That's what I love. Any theme song where it's just that saxophone goes jackhammers your ear for 30 seconds.
Yeah. Also, any sitcom where like once a scene, Richard Kind could run in and be like, "What's wrong with the fax machine?"
I mean, truly, Sin City is all flamethrowers. And then the Sheen Locklear era, it's not like it's bad, but it really does feel wrong
But
that
when
they're
it's
there.
Fucking Boatman.
Yes, Boatman, Kind,
Oh,
Ruck.
or no, O wasn't.
No,
on it.
O's on our list, you freak.
But wasn't? Oh no, Carla Gugino was on at the beginning.
Yeah, but she gets written out fast. They
Right,
don't have
okay.
they don't have any room for her really. But it's
I was confused because, of course, Karen O shares scenes with Michael Boatman on our list. One of the few actors of that era to be on two shows simultaneously.
Boatman was riding the boat between shows.
That's why they call
You're
him that.
forgetting Connie Britton, of course.
Connie Britt,
The great Barry Bostwick of
the
Rocky
great
Horror
Barry Boston.
and such, and Alexander Chaplin, who is very funny on that show, and Bradley Cooper's ex-wife Jennifer Esposito. Speaking of people like, cut that out. Kirstie Alley, yeah, did you like Veronica's Closet? Before we talk about the film, we need to get you on the record about Veronica's Closet.
I never watched Veronica's. I never watched Veronica's Closet. I was still like pretty exclusively watching Nickelodeon. I feel like at
it was
this
like
moment.
97. So
Yeah.
right, you're not maybe ready for the
Yes, I'm
movies
very,
about
very
people
young.
owning, Veronica.
But I loved
the idea
her.
was she owned like a Victoria's Secret
Okay.
style, right? Like it was like a
Well, yes.
lingerie brand.
Yes. Okay. So that makes. Oh, that's why they call it Veronica's Closet. I see. What clever wordplay. I knew Kirstie Alley mostly from It Takes Two, the Olsen twins movie.
Yes, we discussed this.
Yes.
You were in It Takes Two, girl. I was a two of.
You
Again,
say this like you can't be both. They
You
were
could.
not.
they were not
concurrent.
similar. I know, and yet
Because guess what?
I was a big
was a
Olsen twins
sitcom.
person.
I was both.
you like two of a kind.
Get you a Griff who can do both.
I
I like
just-
Two of a Kind and
Two of
It
a Kind
Takes
came
Two.
later. They're completely different.
That's what I'm saying, but I
completely
liked both. It's not a competition.
Two
Two
of a Kind is also the name of a John Travolta, of a
which
bad
we
John Travolta
invoked,
movie.
a
Yes,
terrible, but a perfectly serviceable sitcom.
wonderful. Christopher
Which-
Sieber.
That's the thing. I was watching and they'd be like, what are the twins up to? And I'm like, let's get off the twins. What's going
What's
on
going
with
on?
Sieber and Sally Wheeler?
Yeah, is there an
I
excuse
love
to let
this.
him sing? Like, let's figure it
Christopher
out.
Sieber is, and I want this on the record, and I hope against hope that Christopher Sieber listens to my podcast, which I'm sure he does not, one of the greatest American comic actors alive. I love
A
him
great
so
musical theater
much.
actor, too.
Yes.
Agree with you.
Lord Farquaad himself.
Yes.
Basically, if they're like, we are doing a Broadway musical with like an insane sort of villain role, he's ideal for it. He was just in Death Becomes Her.
It was very fun in the prom.
Playing the Bruce Willis part?
Yeah.
Yes, I didn't see, so I
It was.
I can't
He
speak
was.
to
He
it.
was good. He gets like a showcase second act, like 11 o'clock.
Sounds
number.
like the
Has he
kind of
left
thing
the
he
show
would
now?
mash into the upper deck.
that.
No, I think it's still. I think he's still on it.
Okay.
right?
I
'Cause
can't.
it
I
opened
would
pretty
think that he would
recently.
stick around until
I
at least
hope
Tony
so.
season.
Yeah, you gotta-
because
you
come
gotta
on
He's
now.
in the
Tony.
show. They might have now
Sold you a ticket.
I think so. I saw him do Into the Woods.
Mm-hmm. Who is he in Into the Woods?
He was the
one of the
prince.
princes, right? Yeah.
But in my memory, he was the wolf. Am I wrong about this?
He
Or
was
is he
the-
double
he was the
cast?
wolf.
That's
He
the-
was.
That's the brilliance of the casting.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's both.
It's
the
like how
wolf
Captain
and
Hook
the-
is also
Yes.
Peter Pan, or
Yes.
also Wendy's dad.
Yes.
It's the
okay.
same thing.
So that's what I saw him crush that in a production with Vanessa Williams.
Yeah, 2002 Into the Wolf.
And I want to say John Cullum was the narrator. Yeah.
Laura Benanti with Cinderella.
We might have been there at
Incredible.
the same time.
It's possible.
He of course was Lord Farquaad in Shrek.
That's what I
Why are we
said.
doing a whole Christopher?
Because he
rules.
in a. He's not in this movie, and he's never acted with
should've been.
Kirstie Alley. But he
The
rules.
connection is so tenuous.
Yeah.
It is pretty tenuous. I love Christopher
Anyway,
Sieber so
Kirstie
much.
Alley. Going back to her, she
Mhm.
made an Olsen Twins movie with Steve Guttenberg.
That's why.
where this
Sure,
began.
Sure.
And also Drop Dead Gorgeous, a big touchstone for a millennial woman.
And she's great in that. She's an incredibly funny actor who, unsurprisingly, Hollywood didn't have too many parts for. I think she was a little weird.
Her later in life activities would suggest.
Mm-hmm. She was one of those people where her celebrity became about more than her.
Well, she
acting.
was a tabloid punching bag for like the last 20 years of her life.
Yes.
In a way that seems to have really like warped her brain. She made several shows about being fat and being in Hollywood at the same time. Like,
but they would
more
have
than
really
one.
they would have subtle titles like fat actress though. Like people,
or Kirstie Alley's Big Life.
at least that one's trying to put some sugar on
Look
it.
at this. Like, Look Who's Talking is a massive success in 1989, right? And she is also 2 years into a run on America's favorite sitcom. Then she does Madhouse, which I feel like is a movie that came somewhat recently for reasons I forget, with her and John Larroquette, and Sibling Rivalry, a Carl Reiner flop. Then Look Who's Talking 2, Look Who's Talking Now, and then Village of the Damned, which is a pretty thankless role in a bad movie we've covered. And then the next year, it's like It Takes Two. Like, I'm a little fascinated by, for all the spilled ink of like how hard it was for TV stars to make the jump to movie star in the 80s, the 90s, and the early 2000s, there are these cases like her and Ted Danson where like they do it. They have a big hit. And then they cannot sustain it in any way.
Just have to keep making Look Who's Talkings until you fade back to TV.
Right. You make Three Men and a Little Lady, and then they're just like, no, go back to TV, you fucking piece of shit.
Kirstie Alley's good in this film.
I think this is kind of her best performance.
She's good in the movie.
Yeah.
She's Sapphic. She'll always be Sapphic.
Up to you. But I think this is like the best showcase of what I think she's good at.
Yeah, because she, it's not like it's requiring great range,
Yes.
but she's really good.
I also think it's like a role. It's obviously not like this is 1-to-1 with Heckerling, right? In like the circumstances of this woman's life.
Well, yeah, she's an accountant. She doesn't write movies.
Exactly.
Totally different.
Right. And she's not married to some cock who's writing Police Academy sequels. But I'm like, I think it's part of what was underlined for me in watching this is like her Cheers character feels like it is very much written by men who are like, it's some like career obsessed woman who's like going gaga over rich guys and is like a neurotic mess. And then this feels like the same character, but written like intelligently and compassionately.
Yes.
Yes.
To some degree. I mean,
some
it's got 80s politics.
There's insane shit.
There's
that
a couple,
happens
there's a couple moments that hit a little.
There are so many times where she talks about how disgusting she looks because of, like her weight and just also like the difficulties of being a single mother. But it does feel like that like Roger Ebert quote about Ally McGraw in Love Story where she has the disease that just makes you more beautiful. Like single motherhood, just like she's like radiating like health and good humor and talking about how gross
Dolly Parton body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She lost that baby weight very quickly.
If she ever had it. I mean, she lost it in that she went, I'm throwing a pillow across the room. She plays Molly Jensen.
This movie
a CPA
opens
in New York
with
City.
sperm.
The movie opens with the jizz.
Can't emphasize that enough.
She has an affair with one of her clients, Albert, played very well by George Siegel, who's a great slime ball.
I gotta like wipe the screen every time he shows up. Yeah.
And he is the CEO of the Chubby Charlie's franchise. This is like a thread I was trying to make sense
They briefly mention it.
It's not very explored.
But it sort of seems like he is the owner of a Chuck E. Cheese-esque chain.
Right. He's a lunatic because his office has a marble desk and like he's getting in like, I don't know, like Navajo paintings or something.
The aesthetic is crazy.
He's insane. It's like a joke, like rich guy with no taste.
I think the characterization in his office and the arc of his office evolving is really good. That like this guy
you wanted more of the interior decorator.
The guy has money but no taste and just keeps on buying big things. And he has like a 50s diner jukebox corner of his office. But then he's also like, but I appreciate ancient art and like local craftspeople. It made me like long for a time where this was like charmingly insane rich people.
Oh, like this is the kind of rich person we have.
Where I'm like, this grossly rich man who has $5 million and buys nice desks rather than like buys countries.
Yeah. A daughter named Astrid.
Spaceships. Yeah. Expensive desks, I should say. A daughter named Astrid.
He knocks her up, promises to leave his wife for her, but then she catches him with another woman, his interior decorator of all people.
In a dressing room.
Yeah, while vintage shopping with Twink Kaplan.
He hits her with a line that is so brutal and well written by Amy Heckerling that I have to wonder if Harold Ramis said it to her, which is like, I'm in my selfish era, essentially, right? Like,
And that feels transcribed.
It really does. And it really does feel like the kind of thing a bananas 40-something divorce guy would say, where it's just like, I know I like knocked you up but like, I want to have fun right now. Like, I'm allowed to be single. You know, like that's his brain. And he's rich, obviously, which is helping.
I wondered also if the stuff about like his wife being into like past lives, is that like a Ghostbusters like dig, or am I
that's
taking
a good question.
Am I taking an extra leap
his
there?
first wife, who we never see, is a kook. We sort of,
she's like a new age type in like that very 80s way.
Yeah.
Yes. But not to jump all the way to the end, but I love the final stage George Segal after that relationship falls apart, where he's just like, I've never gotten to be alone. I need to know what it's like.
Right. That's his new form of selfishness.
And then his additional like, the being a father stage of my life is over. I need to move on to something else.
Oh, she's your daughter's 9.
9 and 11.
That's a really good line too.
Yeah.
Never forget. So I'm watching this movie, and of course we're occasionally cutting to her uterus, and baby is in there going, hey, what's going on? I'm in like a uterus or something?
Am I wrong in thinking that the first line of dialogue comes from a spermatozoa?
It's the sperm being like, I got in there.
Yes, I made it.
Right.
Right. And then you have like fetus puppetry.
Yeah.
Yes. Which I will say, I think basically every line, I'm not proud to say this, but I'm going to say this. Every line puppet fetus Bruce Willis says, I found funny. At that stage, I'm like, I get the gimmick of here is her outer life drama, and here's the baby inside being like, I got to move into a bigger place. Like all of that shit, albeit hacky, and a lot of it's just the charisma of Bruce Willis, who I love, was working for me.
So, Hillary, you've been pregnant.
I have.
Not to dox you on air.
Forgot to mention that in your credits in the introduction.
Well, it is the most defining quality of
woman who
my
can do
identity.
it all.
Yes,
Of course. Right. Yes. That was you doing it all. No, you've had a baby. I thought
I've in fact had 2 babies.
You've had 2 babies.
David, please don't cut short her accomplishments.
I thought
I get from this administration, I get a stipend for each additional white child I have.
Do you guys know the world's really bad?
Oh, but they're Jewish.
Your babies are Jewish and
You're
Italian.
right, it doesn't count.
They're not gonna be leading our great white future that are Mr.
Still, that's
Doge.
Nick Vallelonga that Italians don't count anymore.
Hey! I'm watching this movie and I was kind of like, oh, is this going to be a pregnancy movie? Like, is it going to be because now I'm realizing, one, I didn't know what this movie was. Like, I thought this movie was something completely different.
That's the moment when I realized I had never seen this before.
Right. What am I in for?
Because it jumps basically from her being like 3 months pregnant to the baby is born, right?
That's the thing. It's not a pregnancy movie. I was a little let down. I was kind of hoping for some good gags about like the pains of being pregnant, but there's not much apart from like
pregnancy jokes. I feel like all of those tropes are so well worn that I actually appreciated how little of the movie is about.
Exactly. Maybe she was like, "There's nothing here for me."
Like it has her throwing up. Like it has her like eating.
She can't fit into her clothes.
No, she's so fat now. Yeah, I don't know.
Here's just a real Griffin opinion, though. I was just so into that puppet baby and all his creepiness.
So you want more of him?
That I'm just like, and I like the game of like cutting inside outside.
Wait, some music is building and a chair is being panned over. Puppet baby is going to be in Avengers Doomsday. He's on the Puppet Baby from Look Who's Talking. But I'm seeing here that the puppet has aged weird. It's been 38 years.
The chair thing was such a bungle, in my opinion, and yet has gifted us one of the most incredible meme structures that I think will never get old. They've made it so fucking easy for us to put anything on the back of a chair and laugh and laugh and laugh.
So I'm watching this movie and I'm like, the hell is Travolta? Like, and I'm not even like, I need to see him. I'm just like, I thought he was in this movie.
You thought he was the father. You thought the movie was
the father.
Yes.
Misled terribly.
And then, of course, she goes into labor right as Segal is breaking up with her for good. And she gets in a New York City yellow taxi cab.
As we all know, also, labor begins immediately.
Of course. It's like, whoa, I'm in labor. I gotta get in a taxi cab.
And you have some New York tough guy jokes of like her trying to get a cab and the guy being like, I'm late for a meeting.
Right. Yes. The guy, hey, I was here first, lady. So she gets in the cab and Travolta, I'm locked in right away because he does play perfectly the, a pregnant lady's in my cab, but also the heroic kind of like, I will hell or high water, get her to the hospital.
I feel like the way that he drives is not entirely necessary.
What? He's got to get through all this stuff.
He drives like he dances.
Drive through the construction site. Yeah, there's no other way.
It's right. He's dancing through the raindrops like only John Travolta can.
It is kind of crazy that Look Who's Talking ostensibly has 2 car chase sequences.
It does. Well, because it has that structure.
Yes.
Where every half hour they're kind of like, we need something kind of exciting.
Something bigger has to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So
every half hour, but the movie is 90 minutes long.
Yes.
It's 90 minutes long. Hill.
3 times.
You had 2 babies. I have been pregnant for 2.
You've been present,
I've been
David.
present. I've been present for the delivery of 3 babies, but two deliveries. Can you just get Demerol injected into an IV when you're in labor? I don't think so.
In 1989,
Jesus.
possibly. I can't
the
say.
whole point of the epidural was like, that's so we don't pump drugs into your veins.
It is so.
This was a specific point. You
Yep.
guys probably have no
This is
ground.
something that I
fascinated
feel
by
like
this.
nobody
He's
cares.
like, hey, you want some
Yes.
Demerol? And she's like, yeah.
And that's
there you
obviously
go.
going to affect the baby so much more than an epidural, which doesn't make you high. It just numbs you. And
That's
this is
right.
like, this is
He's fucking
this is
jacking morphine
misinformation.
in there.
Yes. Well, and then that leads to the joke where the baby is high, and
Thank
that
you.
made me
The
uncomfortable.
greatest joke in the history of movies.
Obviously.
His baby's wavy gravy.
Obviously,
He's looking
exactly.
at his hand and it's blurring.
As comic screenwriting, I'm all the way on board. I was just wondering, like, I think if my wife had been like,
what we
hey,
paid for.
this whole labor thing is a real, like, I don't feel so good. Do you have any Demerol
Yeah, put some
in
like
the fridge?
fentanyl right in my eyeball.
I just imagine you putting your arms around your wife in labor and going, honey, just imagine how funny it would be if the baby started acting stoned inside of you. Do it for that. Do it
but
for the bit
there are
potential.
things about the pregnancy that I do feel like are very specifically 80s, like the Lamaze jokes.
Yes.
Many jokes about Lamaze.
It comes up. John Travolta brings it up. He doesn't have anything to do with
My
this pregnancy.
sister did it. Hey, everyone learning to breathe.
George Siegel keeps complaining that she isn't keeping her body tighter while being pregnant.
Right. Oh,
'Cause
my
his wife.
My wife only gained 22 pounds.
Her reliance on Dr. Spock.
Yes.
Of course, who was a
Dr.
hero to them
Spock.
all, and her
Yes.
correct calling out of his left-wing progressive politics, which is part of why my mom's generation loved Dr. Spock.
Mhm.
No offense to Dr. Spock.
Fun fact about me as a child, I thought that Dr. Spock, the baby guy, and Spock from Star Trek. I guess
Yeah.
this is not unusual.
Why wouldn't you?
Yes.
One and the same.
Well,
I think I
especially-
believed that
Man of
until
science.
I believed it maybe for too long. But
Especially when a fellow Vulcan is on
2012.
screen, as he's mentioned.
anyway, I've never
That's
seen a
true.
Star Trek, but we can.
But we were probably
Yeah.
both raised with Spockian technique,
Likely.
right? But we
Yes.
don't even yeah.
Where it's like put the baby directly on their stomach to sleep, fill their crib with the choking hazards and suffocation
Griff and
hazards.
Ben. Do you guys know that you can't put anything in a crib right now?
It has
right?
to be empty until they're a year old. That
Right,
is the
like
advice.
I did not know this.
Okay,
really?
right. Okay, this is what I was wondering. Right.
This is uncommon.
Now-
Unless you've had one, there's no reason for you to know that.
We all, as parents,
When did this
have-
shift?
in the
In-
early 90s because
Okay.
of
Because
SIDS.
of SIDS. And
Uh-huh.
and it has had a very immediate,
Obvious
like,
impact.
yes, and yeah, positive impact. Like so many fewer kids die now.
Wild.
But
I'm glad I got through right before that. I was
That-
born in there
Griffin.
with a busy crib
that is the thing.
before crib
If
culture went
you-
all woke.
Exactly. If you, and we're probably the last generation this will happen to, because now, you know, people who are older, their parents will have also done Face Up to Wake Up, but our parents are like, I put you in your crib, right, with an Encyclopedia Britannica, and like, you know, the
Violin.
entire cast of Sesame Street. Yes, exactly.
My
Like
Bible
open
collection.
flames, yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're like, so like when your when your parents are babysitting your kid, you're like, just put them fucking on their back in an empty crib, please. And they're like, not one pillow on their face, please. Let me. I did it with you. Nothing
Wow.
was wrong.
Yeah.
You can't put a goddamn thing in there.
Wild.
So when she puts her baby right in his crib that has a Garfield toy in it and stuff,
Yeah.
I was laughing.
Well, there's also scenes where she's just holding him in the cab. She's not even using a car seat.
Hillary. Absolutely. She just pops into that cab. I don't even, does she put a seatbelt on? Who even knows?
She's a busy lady in the city.
It's the
The amount
go-go
of things
80s. There's no time for
you
safety.
would get arrested.
She's
now.
got taxes to do.
Chubby Checkers is very
I just
Lucrative
love that they
business.
Never explain what Chubby Checkers is.
But you can put it together.
Yes.
I
Anyway.
assumed that it was like a Johnny Rockets like 50s style like theme restaurant.
That could be true. It could be something
But
like
there's
that.
definitely a mascot character you see.
Only you would clock the mascot
No, because she
character.
breaks it.
Sure, right.
It's like a big mascot.
I remember her
character.
smashing the thing,
maquette.
right.
Yeah. I'm sorry. It's Chubby Charles, which I only correct because I kept being like, "Is this a dig at Chevy Chase?" That the more they say it, the more it
Given what we
sounds-
know about Amy Heckerling.
Right.
Yes,
The
given
more
the
they say
pettiness.
it, there's the scene where her boss is chewing her out and she's like, I don't want the Chevy Charles. And she keeps saying it and it starts to sound like Chevy Chase.
That's a conspiracy theory I can get behind.
I also want to note that her doctor, her OBGYN, the two OBGYNs are from The X-Files and also Twin Peaks. Don Davis plays the OBGYN who's like, your clock is ticking.
Major Briggs and cigarette smoking man.
And then cigarette smoking man is the actual guy who gives her the Demerol, which maybe it's cigarette smoking man. Exactly. Maybe he's being nefarious, trying to create a breed of stoned babies.
Yeah, stone talking
exactly.
babies.
As super weapons to combat alien invasion.
Babies who can sell you wine coolers.
She has the baby, and Travolta is there.
They mistake him for the father, much as you did before you saw the movie.
He is merely the cab driver, but then they tell him to
I don't know
gown
why he
up.
comes inside the hospital.
This is what I'm saying. The next act of the movie is, it's like three things. It's like she's embarking on
here.
Right. She's embarking on single motherhood, and the baby has an internal monologue. She's kind of dating around and trying to find like someone, who can be in her life. Also, Travolta's just kind of hanging out.
Right. This is the part of the movie that even more than the baby talks is a complete creation.
Oh, and we're also supposed to find it charming when he uses her address to commit fraud so that Abe Vigoda can be in the nursing home.
Once again, step backwards and explain the arc of John Travolta's character in quick.
He's a cab driver / flight instructor.
Right. Right. He's a cab driver whose real dream is to teach people how to fly.
Yeah, he's from New Jersey.
But that doesn't pay the bills.
He's from Englewood, New Jersey.
His close relative is his grandfather, who he wants to get played by Abe Vigoda.
Yeah, but by an aged Abe Vigoda.
Yes.
Yeah,
Not as aged as he would become.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's got like 30 years left on the clock at the time they're filming this movie.
But he's, it's a gum-heavy performance from Vigoda.
I think you watch this movie and you understand why his death was misreported so many times.
Yeah.
Yes.
He looks like he's not long for this world.
I'm shaking him awake every morning. You're still in there? Oh, okay. You're still going. Good job, Abe.
You watch this movie and you're like, oh, so it was a posthumous release, right? And you're like, this guy hasn't even made one appearance on Conan yet.
That's true.
This guy's not even warm.
Conan is but a twinkle in the eye of Lorne Michaels in 1989.
He's talking inside Lorne Michaels' belly.
Exactly. Please, Griffin, his balls.
I'm sorry.
It's so dark in here.
I like the idea of Lorne Michaels pulling a junior with baby Conan O'Brien, a creepy puppet with the hair.
I think I'll grow I can't do Lorne.
Doing the string dance. John Travolta drops Kirstie Alley off at the hospital. They assume he's the father.
Yeah,
he
they get him
goes
all
into the
scrubbed
living
up,
room.
right.
She's so drugged out she does not remember that he's there. Then like a week later, seemingly, he shows up at her place. She's like, ugh, what are you doing here? Lets him in, is like, how did you find my address? I can't find my purse. Someone stole it at the hospital, only in New York. Minutes later, he reveals, I have your purse. That's why I'm here. That's why I know your address. I'm bringing it back to you. I'm sorry, right?
He got in right under the wire right before Giuliani would clean this up, take Travolta's and the people like them off the streets.
It is a weird series of information being revealed. Like the order is strange, but you're like, oh, this is like why he has a reason to see her again. It's a bit of a meet cute. And then she like kicks him out. And you're like, okay, so where does the movie go from here? And then a couple days later, she's in her lobby and he's like pulling mail out of her mailbox.
Yes, he's sort of right. I don't know how he's fishing it out really, but I guess he sort of gets something in through the little mail
they teach you at flight instructor school.
Right, yeah,
how to commit mail fraud.
Yeah.
Jimmying it out through the vent.
So he can pretend his father has Manhattan residency to qualify him for some kind of home. He's using her address to do this. He doesn't know one other fucking guy.
Right. He's like, I need to get
Not in Manhattan.
Vigoda in the good home in the New York City, but I'm outside city limits, so I have to fake your address. And she was like, why would I let you commit mail fraud? And he's like, I brought you to the hospital and brought you your purse back. And she's like, not enough. He offers babysitting in exchange. And she says, yes, absolutely. I will let you watch my child
This man I've met twice.
many times. A man I just met fishing mail out of my mailbox.
The fact that she has a mother played by Olympia Dukakis.
Academy Award winner.
And a wonderful actress who I once shared an elevator with at the old UCB building that we used to record this podcast in, which also had a lot of audition.
Must be going to Ripley Greer Studios.
And I took a very silent and respectful elevator ride with her and was like in the presence of a legend. She'd fucking come over all the time. She loves the baby. And yet she's like, nah, cab driver. Hey, ring, ring, ring. Where are you? I got to go on another date.
Yeah, it seems like they just live in like Queens or something. They could be there really easily.
He lives in Jersey. Like how, I mean, like, this is what I'm saying. Like, he's not even close.
In that same elevator ride, didn't she throw water in John Mahoney's face? You were respectful, but she stoically threw water in his face, right? I'm sorry. Go on.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I like her and the husband.
The husband is so
Who is
funny.
Amy Heckerling's father?
Yes.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah.
The real dad.
Oh, cool.
He's
Amy
just,
Heckerling's family is all over this movie.
He's just
So deeply
but
personal.
The gag with him is so funny. They're all like, it's a family of accountants, right? They've all got adding machines at all times, and all he seems to want to do is use his adding machine.
Or read accounting magazine.
Oh,
I'd
when
be
he's
like,
laughing at the accounting trade
yes,
magazine, I
yeah.
loved that. I ate that up too. That's a good gag.
I think all of that is funny. I think because Dukakis is such a pro, like she elevate that material is very hacky, in the wrong hands, right?
Oh yeah, where Kirstie Alley is like, Nick, how could it get any worse? And then she's like, honey, I'm coming over.
Lou
Yeah.
Heckerling is the dad.
He
And
looks like a Lou.
he's
Yeah.
got 2 film credits. Look Who's Talking.
Look who's
Look
talking,
Who's Talking
to.
To.
There you go.
Yeah. So
Did he get back end also?
yeah, he better have.
Oh, speaking of 80s
This
shit,
is him adding up his back end,
the,
doing adding machines.
her misleading that it was a sperm donor.
Oh, right.
Oh, sure,
We didn't
right.
even talk
She
about
has
that.
this cover story of I didn't get knocked up by a married.
I'm
man.
just
But
a
they
woman who
keep
can do
being
it
like,
all.
"What? You must be a lesbian or
That's
something."
the
the
most
most
keep making
80s.
that
She's
joke.
like, this is something that you would only do if you were very ugly or perhaps a lesbian.
Right, and Travolta also hits her with the "Are you a lesbo?"
It comes up a few times.
Yes.
But let's also remember, like 15 years earlier, the Mary Tyler Moore show starts, in which a woman is single and lives in an apartment, and people were like, well, this is a snuff film.
Right. What is this sick pornography
This
on
is
our
illegal.
The idea that she would want to pay for herself on a date is like so ludicrous.
Yes.
Right, he has
In the
to say to her
universe
like,
of
"Hey,
this-
she likes to get pissed on during sex." You know what I mean? Like when a guy Travolta's
liberated,
like,
yeah.
"Let me take you aside for a second and tell you, this lady won't pick up the check." Note that we're talking about all this stuff in the movie, and that we're not remarking on the fact that there is a baby in the movie who Bruce Willis's voice comes out of his brain every few minutes.
Is ostensibly the thing the whole movie
And it's what
was-
Hillary said. You don't need it.
No, it's
But
what
it's
the movie
there.
was sold on, both in terms of selling it to the studio and selling it to the audience, both to great success. And yet it sounds like in Heckerling's telling of it, they were just like, look, you're not going to get controlled performances out of babies. We bring babies on set. We let them do what we want. We don't have video playback. We look at the footage. We find the footage that we think is interesting. We cut it in. We show it to Bruce Willis. And we're like, Bruce, you got anything to say here? Like, I assume they had lines written for the babies, but
Sure.
she was also like, we can't impose lines on them and expect them to hit the marks or get the facial expression we want.
Maybe I mean, by the time the movie is over, he's like 2 years old, which in the movie, in the world of the movie has no idea what a baby
I
does
was
at
about
different
to
ages.
say, how old is he? Because his
He
first
doesn't talk
words.
yet.
I know,
Do you
Hillary.
know that a baby? You know this. A baby
Yes.
can't jump until they're like 2.5.
I remember that's the kind of like, I remember one doctor's visit where they were like, does your daughter like kick a ball if you give her like a soccer ball? And we were like, we're not that kind of family. That situation just hasn't arisen. But like the obscure check marks.
But no, the conceit of the movie doesn't work if the baby can actually talk in its own baby voice.
Right. Which I remember, and we'll talk about Look Who's Talking To next week, being a little confused by that as a child, where he is like toddler aged and is still dubbed by Bruce Willis.
That happens. And so in the second movie, it's still internal monologue.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
But he's of an age where he should be able to talk.
Right. By Look Who's Talking Now, they
They're
are just
kids.
played by child actors. They speak in their own
It's the
voices.
dogs.
Only the dogs
Yeah.
talk. Right.
It's of course DeVito and Keaton.
Right.
Diane.
Yes. But there's a bit of a like Rugrats-y thing where you're like, is it like Angelica being the one who speaks both languages? That like at this
Well,
point
you
might
are-
be, there's an internal monologue and an external monologue?
You are getting at the weirdness of Rugrats, right? Where Angelica has crossed the liminal barrier.
Right. Where you're like, is Angelica
No,
code
she's
switching?
bilingual. Yeah.
Or is she like in some Ghost Rider state where she can walk both
But
worlds?
Rugrats is so funny because it's like Chucky kind of seems older than Tommy.
Well, he is. He's canonically too.
Okay, and Tommy's
And
one.
Tommy's one.
Yeah, Tommy's also
Interesting.
bald as fuck. This
That
guy
guy
hasn't
is-
grown anything.
That guy is Travolta level bald.
Right, and Tommy's just like t-shirt, diaper. Chucky dresses like a little gentleman. He has a t-shirt and shorts.
Well,
Yes,
he has
green
a very
shorts.
fastidious single dad who takes a lot of time to pick those outfits
He has
out.
shoes
Yeah.
with laces.
Yeah.
Tommy's
Right.
walking around
That is
barefoot.
absurd, yeah.
Tommy's like
Pigeon-toed.
goo goo gaga bullshit.
Tommy doesn't even wear pants.
No,
at
Oh,
all.
so
at all.
but that's my question. It's like, does Chucky talk a little
No,
bit to
only
his parents?
Angelica and Susie.
And
Because
then
there's
there's
3.
Phil and Lil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old are they?
They're like 18 months.
I feel like they're
They're like
right.
in the
They're the
middle.
midpoint.
Yeah. Tommy's the youngest. Well, then Tommy has a little brother.
Then there's the little
which
one.
is
Okay,
confusing.
so then Dill is born, and Dill
Dill.
can't even speak in a way that the babies hear. The babies hear Dill go like, "Meh."
Okay, it is coming true. Your tangent call out.
Thank
This
you.
is
But
really.
you know
And then
what?
do you know what happens?
It's so similar to when Linus got rerun in Peanuts, where it's like
Go
Linus
on.
was the baby in
Sure.
Peanuts.
Yes.
Linus is introduced as a baby. By the time the rerun shows up, Linus has aged up to the same age as the other characters of Charlie Brown, but they haven't aged.
Right, but
Wait,
that's
like
Linus
there's-
wasn't the same age as them?
No, Linus
Originally,
is
no, that's
introduced
why
as
he
a
was
Because
baby.
Lucy is the same age.
Yes.
as-
But that's why
Oh.
Linus was so obsessed with the blankie
It's why
because
he
he
has
was a
the
baby.
blanket.
But then I think ultimately this is like a nice discovery that makes the character richer. That him being an older child still reliant on the blankie gives him more of an
No,
internal
of course,
conflict.
that's the iconic Linus is that he has the blankie and he can't get over it. And I guess like he's still supposed to maybe be a little younger than like Charlie and Lucy and Schroeder and
Well, yeah,
Pepper
because he
and
and Lucy,
Patty
they're not
and
twins.
Pigpen.
Like, you
They're
would
not.
have to be.
But this is what I'm saying. But Charlie and Lucy at all don't age.
Now
Yes.
I must
all.
just call out. I must just connect these dots.
Shermie. We
Well,
have all
we
of
love
our friends.
Shermie. We all love Shermie.
Violet.
Yes.
Woodstock is the bird.
Frida. I must
Are
just
you naming actual peanuts?
Yeah.
Or just like children in Park Slope schools?
both. I must connect these dots. In the third and final film of the theatrical Rugrats trilogy, Rugrats Go Wild,
In which they went wild.
the new
It's a,
hook.
it's a crossover with the Wild Thornberries.
Thank you. The new hook, much like Look Who's Talking Now, is for the
Ah.
first time we can hear the dog talk.
Because Eliza Thornberry famously
Thank you.
can talk to animals.
And who plays the voice of the dog?
Bruce Willis?
Correct.
The episode's over.
It's
We're gonna-
all connected.
It's all
Incredible
Sir,
stuff.
Right?
This is a Wendy's. No, yeah, you're right. You're right. It's all connected. I mean, Willis.
And that movie was, check notes, gigantic financial flop.
Willis, you know, it's funny with him that he has multiple like voice performances because he's also in Beavis and Butthead, right?
Mhm.
And like,
Over the Hedge,
who can forget?
where he replaced Jim Carrey. Because Jim Carrey said, I'm a method actor. I can't do this process of one animation record session every 4 months. What am I supposed to do in between the sessions? I swear to you, that is what he said to Jeffrey Katzenberg.
What has he been
Amazing.
doing to prepare for Sonic then?
Well, look, he's just like, once
Looking
I-
at his bank account and being like, little low.
Maybe never mind. Yeah.
his argument was basically like, once I start prepping a character, I cannot let go of it until production wraps. Whereas animation, you work on it for like 3 years,
Mhm.
and every 6 months they're like, we got a couple new lines.
Right. And Willis was just like, over the hedge. Great. What's about a hedge or something? Let me hit that microphone.
Yeah.
It's just funny. He
Can,
has a
can we
great
put
voice.
a microphone in my bathtub?
I love Bruce Willis's voice.
I do too.
It's just funny that he had the little side gig. as
Well,
well.
it's always felt like that is like the one vestige of his sort of like past history of being first and foremost a comedy star. That the more he became an action star and like audiences rejected him doing comedy, it's like, if it's just my voice, they'll let me be funny Bruno. But this was a big thing when Jim Carrey finally agreed to do Horton Hears a Who. They promised him like, we will
He was like, you must airlift me to the jungle of Newell.
well, first off, they got him agree to do the movie because he was already filming Yes Man. And he was so deep in
they got him.
character.
Right. That's how I got him to give me $50,000 and make me a turkey sandwich.
You could send him any script during the production of Yes Man, and he had to sign on.
Just like when he was doing Liar Liar, the man couldn't lie.
He couldn't
He could get
lie.
anything out of him.
He couldn't lie. No, they like promised him on Horton Hears a Who that they wouldn't do any pickups. That they were like, we will do 1 week of recordings with you, and you say whatever you want, and then you can shed the character of Horton that has been weighing on you so heavily.
Well, he is an elephant.
Yes,
Yeah, it's heavy.
Yeah.
Think about it.
100%.
He was the elephant in the room.
I've never seen the animated Horton Hears a Who. Is it any good?
No, it sucks and is for losers.
Okay. Noted.
There's like no good Dr. Seuss adaptation.
Well, apart from, I guess, the
The Grinch,
original
that's
Grinch.
no,
cartoon,
no
yeah.
theatrical. Yes, right.
How's the
The shorts are
Lorax
good.
movie?
I've never seen it. I've heard quite stinky. Yeah, I think all the theatricals are bad.
Because my daughter loves the Lorax book.
Yeah, there's an animated short of that.
Oh,
That's
is she a
good.
narc and a scold?
Yeah, she's a big Onceler fan.
All the like Chuck Jones half-hour Seuss adaptations are good.
Yeah.
Sure.
But you
Well,
can't make a Dr. Seuss adaptation that's longer than 25
That's the
minutes.
problem.
No,
Yeah.
his books kind of are a little short.
And hand-drawn animation's the best style because it's a
It's what
one-to-one
he
with
drew.
the right. Yeah.
Isn't there a new Cat in the Hat movie coming though?
There
with,
is.
Like, fucking,
Bill Hader's in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's up with Hader? Come on the pod, Hader. Let's
Come on the pod,
hash
Hader.
it out.
Look who's talking. There are like 3 phases of Mikey as a character, right? There is
Fetus.
in utero Mikey, which for me 10 out of 10 comedy gold.
And then there is infant Mikey.
There's baby section where I feel like all of the jokes are bad. Like I'm sitting there the first 30 minutes and I'm like, God, I was feeling the way you were feeling about Travolta. Where I don't deny Travolta's performance this at all, but the way you had the total reassessment of like, God, do I love Travolta? Does Travolta just make me so happy? The first 30 minutes of the baby sounding like Bruce Willis, I was just like, God, I miss Bruce. I love Bruce. Bruce means so much to me. What a charmer. And then there's a midsection of it just feels like the absolute laziest first pass jokes of him going like, hey, where are we going? And it's like,
To be fair,
Well, the thing about
when you're an infant, I guess that
Yes.
probably is mostly like, being picked up again. I wonder where I'm going.
I think that you can probably also relate to this experience of you have a kid, you spend, a year wondering like what's going on in that head of yours,
Right.
and then they start talking and it's like banana, banana.
Yeah.
Like that's what they've been thinking this whole time.
That. It's just that. I see that.
Yes.
That. What is that? That. That's all they're thinking.
well, this is what I found.
They're
They're
very
not like,
simple.
oh, mother.
This is what I found funny and frustrating is like, okay, in utero, we understand the comedic potential there, right? When he's out as a baby, they just have no take on him comedically, considering that's the genesis of this project is let's narrate what we think our daughter is thinking right now, right? When he gets into his weird non-speaking toddler age, I think it gets good again. And feels like this is where the gimmick kind of makes sense, where it's him interacting with Travolta
There's
and it's
more
all
emotion
based
to it,
on their
because-
connection.
Yeah, because now you are all in on that.
Right. And you're there's a little tension to the idea that the baby is just like, Mom, I want this guy to be my dad.
Right.
And the
she can't
frustration
hear
of
it. Yeah.
right. And I'm like, now it's good again. Now I'm in. And I think he has good jokes again. I also think the few times they let babies interact with each other,
I think those are funny.
that works.
Yeah.
Anytime
Those are
it's
great.
because it's oh, baby just doing commentary on adults. I'm like, it's starting to get a little there's an interesting interpersonal drama going on, and then the baby just makes a one-liner. Anytime it's the bit of babies being like, hey, how's it going? Funny.
It's like, how do you like my new haircut? I felt that whole back and
That's
forth.
cute.
That exchange. is
Don't make
very
me
cute.
wear the lambs. I
Yeah.
look like such a loser in the lamb shirt.
And I think Heckerling was smart about getting this footage of babies and then being like, what'd be funny is if with the footage we have, they were saying this. When you were saying there's weird lap flip stuff of sometimes towards the end his mouth is moving, it feels like she just let them talk and say whatever.
Yeah, they're talking to a toddler.
And then
There's-
She was
Sure.
looking at who was talking.
Totally. And then dub it over with whatever. There are moments at the end where it feels like the dubbing is almost syncing up, where you're like, did the kid actually say a proper sentence?
I looked
Similar?
for who was talking.
Yeah.
But then I sat my ass down and listened.
Wow.
But yes, the middle section of the movie is what we described. And then it starts to barrel towards, you're like, right, so she's got to get with Travolta.
Yeah.
And
Who, by the way, has just been
hanging out. But no, go ahead.
constantly. No, because the early negotiation
What do you
is
think she's paying him?
Great question. 1989, Manhattan accountant.
George Siegel makes a joke where I think he says $10 an hour, where he's like, what is she paying you? I'll double it.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's making an assumption. I don't know if
Sure.
he actually knows. Yeah.
The early
and he makes an ass out of
Mhm.
me frequently in the film.
You're so enlightened.
David is being wise as hell in this episode. The early negotiation, which feels like a classic movie setup, is here's the handshake deal. 10 letters get sent to me in exchange for 5 babysitting appointments. And I'm like, okay, so this movie is going to track.
I'm going to pretend to be your boyfriend until the spring dance.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's going to track 5 babysitting appointments, and by the end of it, they fall in love. And instead, the movie does this crazy time jump of what feels like it is at least a year.
The movie kicks into a montage, and I'm like, yeah, sure, we're in a montage. I get it. Time has passed a little bit. And then hard cuts to, yes, like a toe-headed toddler.
Kid looks like Macaulay Culkin,
Yes.
and Travolta has seemingly been there every single day.
Which is so, because it seems like she never stopped working, right? So he's essentially this kid's nanny. Like he's spending 9 hours a day.
He throws the kid in the trunk, does it, 12 hours on
He's
the
barely
as a
getting to
hack.
teach anyone how to fly.
right. Once in a while, he sprinkles in some flight lessons.
Is this the movie that made Travolta get into flying planes, or did he?
Or is it just that he's like, hey, you know what I love?
This
Flying
was my
planes.
big question.
I think it's a chicken and egg thing. I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't write it in because he was already into flying planes.
Quite possibly. I'm going to try to carbon date this, but go on.
John Travolta earned his private pilot's license at the age of 22.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
So he's
Just
been
around
in,
the same time as he entered the Church of Scientology.
Mhm.
Yes, and possibly was entering other things. We don't know. And
We have no comment on
Yes.
what he was entering.
no,
We
so
couldn't be more vague about
if
that.
he was 22, that's like 74. So it's like early in like Welcome Back Kotter time or whatever. It's
Yeah.
not, he's not
Right.
even
Yeah.
in fucking
Well,
Grease
so then
or
that
whatever.
definitely must have been a thing to appease him.
Probably.
Yeah.
Again, this movie was produced by his agent.
Yes.
Like, I think a lot of things were done to appease him.
We
If he had been into like trains, they would have
exactly.
had
It'd
him
be
be
like, yeah, he plays the
amateur
fucking
train conductor.
Subway conductor.
That's my
exactly.
favorite thing about Travolta's plane obsession is, unlike Harrison Ford, when Travolta flies planes, he wears a little pilot outfit. Have you seen that?
Yeah, because he owns a jet.
Right. And he's got wings and he puts on a hat.
Right. Like Ford flies little planes or whatever.
Right.
Like,
He
yeah.
does
Ford
it.
only flies planes that he can crash.
Right. He flies very crashable planes.
Right. And
Yeah,
he does it
They're
dressed
like made out of plywood.
dressed like the character from Shrinking or whatever. I just like that, like, Travolta's like, I want to be a pilot. Like, he does the full, like,
Catch me if you can.
yeah. Do any kids want to come up and visit? I'll give them peanuts and pretzels. Little wing pens.
I mean, obviously, there's the kind of rom-com-y, although Heckling apparently doesn't like this movie being called a rom-com, but it
It is.
sort of is one.
Yeah.
It's
but
more about their relationship than it is about the
100%.
baby.
I also think for the element of the film that is like the most constructed, right? Not referencing her own life. I do think it's kind of an interesting emotional setup for a movie, which is like woman who just had a child, whose like parentage she is obscuring, trying to figure out how to date someone as a new single mother, specifically through the prism of, I'm not just trying to find a boyfriend, I'm trying to find a father. Like, I think that's a good setup and a thing that people were making fucking movies about.
And then goes on some of the worst dates of all time. Those guys are
good bad dates.
duds.
Yeah, it's one kind of finicky weirdo and one guy who yells at the waiter and then toupee
It's
man.
the episode of Sex and the City with the freak show. Does this
Mhm.
resonate with you?
Of course,
Yeah.
of course. I feel like the montage of 3 to 4 bad dates pretty much always hits. Like, I always like that. Just like, let's bring in some funny actors to
I
do
also-
like stupid stuff.
I
for
like
5
that you
minutes.
have some more expressive, heightened Heckerling cutaways that like really show off kind of more directing style of like, there's the control freak guy who gives the notes about the silverware and the glass of water and whatever. And then she cuts to him noting Mikey's organization of socks.
Like shows them all older. Like what if we got
right.
together?
How would they apply as father? Whatever their weird quirks are.
The dream sequence of if she married Travolta and she was just pregnant constantly.
Is great. That sequence is
Very
so
fun.
much fun. And then what's the one that ends with the Scanners-esque head explosion?
No, she had explode Seagull.
Right.
And they actually,
That's so good.
They had to think about, because they were like, we don't want that to be too scary.
Yeah.
So they like filled his head with little
Confetti,
balloons and stuff.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like to make it a little more goofy. I like that scene.
I do too. I think this
Um,
movie's very well directed.
This
It's
movie
also funny
is
that
good.
Travolta
I mean-
feeds his family garbage.
Yes.
Oh, right. Yeah. The cut ahead to the future when they're about to bone and she's like, no, I don't want my child to be raised by like a grease ball or whatever.
by a dumpster diving flight
Right.
instructor.
And he's like, if you peel the lettuce, the first layer of the lettuce from the garbage off, it's perfectly good. Hillary, yeah, I didn't actually ask you this. Did you like this movie?
Oh yeah, I
Like,
enjoyed it.
'cause
It's a breezy watch. Like
Same. Felt the same.
so comedies can age very poorly, but I think that this honestly is not. I don't know.
No, this is a good
Nobody's
movie.
gonna be
This
mad
is
after
a
they watch
good
this. It's fine.
movie.
I'm assuming, the next 2 movies are bad.
Mm.
I am pretty like,
6-year-old Griffin would disagree with you.
right,
strongly.
but I'm pretty satisfied that this is like, I was
Yeah,
like,
like,
this is a
it's
really
hacky,
entertaining
it's
movie.
broad, but
Right,
it's
I get why it hits.
And the Trojan horse aspect of it is so fascinating, where it's like she used this as a disguise to make a movie about other things she found interesting, which is the primary beat of this movie. Ben, we had our art show recently. And we had an installation where we built a porch, a replica of your childhood porch you used to watch movies on. And we do like an artist is present Marina Abramovich thing where you'd sit on the porch watching VHSs and people would come up and talk to you. And I saw someone on the Reddit said that they had walked in and heard you in the middle of having a really good conversation explaining why Michael Mann is better than the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Sounds
Your
correct.
line that they walked in on was, when I watch a Michael Mann movie, I can tell this was made by one person. Marvel movies aren't made by one person. Which is such a good, concise distillation of, I think, what so much of our podcast is about, right? That like movies are made by many people and they're a collaborative process. They're impacted by all these things. And yet, basically the single greatest calculus we use for whether or not we think a director is interesting and worth devoting an entire series to on this show is, do the majority of the movies feel like they are a reflection of that person? For better or worse, that like there is something individual and personal about them. And for this being a movie that has so many weird like calculations of like, I need a hit and like Talking Baby, that just feels like a box office slam dunk, even if I'd rather be doing something edgy or whatever. Everything about this feels like it was made by one person. And it has like some weird like 90s, 80s studio note, script note bullshit in it. But yet I'm just like, the way everything is like shot, the cohesion of the tone of performance for a movie that is very strange, even just like the rhythms and like the shot structure, the editing and whatever. I'm just like, this is a weirdly personal movie for her, wrapped up in like a big high concept comedy that also feels like she's like getting to make it the way she wants to. I was so pleasantly surprised by that.
And I think it's partly because she's a smart director. She's working with a lowish budget. So my guess is whatever she wants to do, as long as you're not costing the studio money, yeah, go for it. Like, we don't give a shit about this movie like that much.
We talk about like the danger of taking the talking horse movie, right? Where it's like this trap that people fall into where it's like, hey, we know there's your personal project you want to make, but that's kind of risky. There's this really hot script about a talking horse. And if you sign on to this thing is a can't miss hit. And then you'll have the cachet to make whatever you want. And what happens is they make the talking horse movie dispassionately, the movie bombs, and then your box office poison.
And so the secret is make the talking horse movie as the personal movie.
Yes, and obviously part of that
about some shit that happened to you
is that she started it.
Make it personally implicating Harold Ramis for being an asshole.
Like, no pun intended, she was able to incubate it holistically from the beginning. But I'm just like watching this and my mind is blown by like, she figured out how to do that. The exact trap that most people don't survive. And she made it into her biggest hit.
Agree. Good job, Amy. And she kind of rescued her entire career. And because of that, we get Clueless, which is thus I'm the person I am
today. And so if for no other reason, yeah, you have to appreciate Look Who's Talking for giving us Clueless.
There's no way she's getting the money to make an Emma reboot. And, maybe because it was a teen movie, like studios would be a little more interested, but we're, it's like, it's just like, thank God she made this because she gets to make Clueless.
Yeah. Is this her meeting with Twink Kaplan, or was she already friends with Twink Kaplan?
Great question.
Because Twink later
love
becomes
Twink Kaplan, of course,
a regular in all of her movies, and also becomes like a co-producer on her movies.
Twink
they're
very close, but I don't think she had made a movie with Heckerling before. But you're right that she goes on to produce some of her movies, and she's such a funny actor.
She's Kirstie Alley's best friend. But will end up being one of the teachers in Clueless.
We can consider this, Miss Geist's origin is that first she was a hard-charging accountant in the go-go 80s. And then, she decided to go
get
do
her ass
something.
to Beverly Hills.
Yeah, do something a little more rewarding.
She decided to come in, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, Sean,
there's
no way that Hillary would know what you were saying because Hillary has not seen A Master Builder, the Jonathan Demme film.
Really? That's weird. Hillary, I thought you worked in entertainment journalism.
It's a terrible blind spot.
Hillary, just to tell you this, because I do like to tell people sometimes, there's a Jonathan Demme film that is a Master Builder, the Ibsen play, starring Wallace Shawn.
Okay. I was thinking Master Builder like Legos, but that makes more sense.
What a difference a name makes.
What a difference a Master Builder.
Yeah, rather than the Master Builder.
Right. And there is a scene in this film. Ben, you never saw it, right? Because you weren't on that episode. Where Wallace Shawn is sitting in a hospital bed and someone knocks on the door. And
he's in hospice care at home.
Yeah, sure. Right. That's it.
Yeah.
Someone knocks on the door and he goes, come in. And it is it's like foghorn sound you have ever heard in your life.
It is the most bizarre line delivered in the history of cinema. And it feels like he accidentally clocks the lens in the middle of saying it and then looks panicked that he did that. Come in!
Come in! It really sounds like you're being told to go to an air raid shelter. Anyway, That's why he said that.
Thank you so much for that detailed explanation.
That's important.
You're
Decade of Dreams.
welcome. Decade of Dreams.
Other stuff to talk about.
Travolta tries to have sex with Kirstie Alley. She's like, I'm so into it and you seem great, but I just don't want, loser in my life
anymore. Is it after the flight? After he takes her in the plane?
Yes. And then it's like, and then of course, the rom-com misunderstanding, this is something I was trying to say before, must happen of like, hey, you told me you were artificially, turns out it's George Siegel. Hey, how could you lie to me? I'm off to Jersey. I'll see you later. Bye. I'm gonna be out of the movie for 10 minutes.
Here's the thing I like, that before that, the like obstruction from them getting together isn't like, oh, she doesn't realize until the last 5 minutes that she's been in love with Travolta the whole time.
I love Josh.
Right. They make that connection in the halfway point. She has that like nightmare flash ahead sequence, right? And then is just like, wait a second, I can't just be motivated by, do I like a guy? I'm on this father quest. And starts almost doing this kind of like classist judgment of him, combined with him being a lunatic and a weirdo.
I'm fine with him stalking me.
Right. And I think also the other unspoken part of it is like her son does have this strong bond with John
although
Travolta.
I do also take some umbrage at the scene where John Travolta is listing off all of Mikey's favorites, and like a 2-year-old child doesn't care about Michael Jackson.
I mean, once again, how old is this kid?
He's his favorite fucking singer. What's the matter with
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, ham on rye. There's two scenes in this movie that if I describe them to you, the listener, and you, the guest, and you, the host, you'll be like, hey, that sounds sweet, but that sounds really sappy. And they are the scene in which John Travolta sort of gives some friendly advice, fatherly advice to the kid before he's like not going to see him again for a while. And Kirstie Alley listens in on the baby monitor.
Let's also acknowledge that when he first comes over.
Let me keep talking. Let me finish my point, Griffin.
Okay,
Shush. And then the second thing is the capper at the movie, which is that the kid's first words are data, which we've already.
Which I think is a slam dunk.
Exactly.
It's like the reason you write the whole screenplay.
You see it coming.
Yeah, but look who's talking. Yeah, look who is talking.
Super effective.
And
if I'm Kirstie Alley, and I'm pissed that his first word isn't mama, but that's a separate conversation.
Kid always says data first because it's easier to say.
Yes.
Right?
This is actually a true thing.
Yes.
Scientifically.
Easier for your mouth to say it. But both of those scenes sound so sappy, but Travolta makes them not sappy. And the scene where he's talking to the kid on the baby monitor is actually quite funny and light while still being sweet and like heartwarming. And of course, I'm sure that's Heckerling too, master of tone here, like, calling her a master of tone in a movie that starts with cum.
But I mean, that's sort of the argument for it, where you're like, the movie should collapse at that moment.
And those scenes are really sweet, as is the scene where Kirstie Alley of court tends to Abe Vigoda when he's had too much candy and become a monster.
It is nice that
he started punching people because he eats too much chocolate.
But there is a reciprocal aspect. It's not just her realizing that he's a good caregiver. It's him realizing that she cares enough about him too. Like it's not. It's
all good screenwriting. Now, what were you trying to?
The thing I was going to say, David, before you so rudely cut me off from rudely cutting you off. A double rude was, I think that's like built very deliberately and well in the movie, that like when he comes over to bring back her purse, he starts talking to the kid like a grown-up, and she sort of catches it coming out from the bedroom. It's the bit where he's explaining the coffee and puts the breast milk in the coffee, but it's sort of like, fuck, he like engages with my kid like a real person, which we talk about all the time, David. It is like a big movie star test that like if movie stars are good with kids, it somehow immediately makes them feel even shinier. I think part of it is like the extreme skill challenge of like how hard it is to act with a child, but also that you kind of like can't fake the charisma. And if you like are nice to a kid and it seems genuine, then everyone likes you more. Like it's more endearing. I think that's like, I genuinely think it is a huge part of Dustin Hoffman fucking winning the Kramer versus Kramer Oscar.
Yeah.
Beyond all the emotional scenes in that movie is just that like half of it is him making breakfast with the kid, and you're like, fuck, he's good with this kid.
He is.
Travolta is
bad at breakfast.
Travolta's good with
he learns.
Yeah, he learns to fry an egg or whatever. What a feminist hero he is.
He needs to get an award for being able to feed his kid one time.
Yeah, and also he was married to one of the greatest villains in Disney history, Maleficent herself.
Yeah, exactly. The most evil lesbians. Yes.
Travolta is just from second one good with the baby.
He's great with the baby.
Where
And
you like
all the scenes where he's dancing around with him and stuff. It's so cute.
it makes the premise work. And I think you're right. It's like super endearing. Now, he also does shit that is insane. She falls asleep, is like, watch the baby for a little bit while I take a nap. He decides to take the baby out on the town,
Doesn't do anything to indicate where they've been.
disappears for hours. And then she's like, I'm so angry at you. I called the cops on you. I'm only going to let you babysit my son 87 more times.
While I go to my aerobics class.
Right. And then there's the similar fuck up of like, I get it. It's a complicated, there's a lot going on in her life at that moment. The moment in this film that strains credibility for me the most is her leaving Mikey with Abe Vigoda after he's just gone fucking Rocky Balboa.
Dude,
Well,
they have been talking about Vigoda.
The orderly is also in the room.
He
There's
is
another adult there.
an animal who escaped the pen and was like brutalizing people. And then she's like, one candy bar. And they're like, mistake. No big deal. It's fine that he punched a nurse and he can watch the baby for a while. Honestly, do you want a cup of coffee?
Well, because the mistake actually was that the orderly doesn't speak English.
That he just says no problem.
A very odd scene.
Right.
Yeah.
And that also Abe Vigoda's so horny. Even in the middle of showing family photos, if a hot, young 87-year-old piece of tail walks down the hallway, he's got to throw his
Abe is
chompers in
out.
and chase after her.
His blood is up. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Which then leads to a surprising set piece. Like a movie where you're like, this
Again,
is gonna
the
hit.
feeling of like, we need one more set piece. Right. Is that he gets into the cab.
The kid escapes from the retirement
I
home.
feel like that the entirety of like Baby's Day Out is based on that sequence in this movie.
yes. Rival studio executives' eyes lit up and
There's
started,
like a baby in a car.
look who's driving now. It is kind of a funny bit that he gets in the back of a car that's being towed, and so it appears that he's driving.
This is so that he can say Dada. And she's like, hey, you know what? I'm with you. Cut to jizz. Cut to birth of a
Let
girl.
my
Roll the
love up in
credits.
the door.
Like we're truly, it's trying to like, okay. We gotta go.
Kirstie Alley, a liberated 1980s businesswoman who has
Yes.
never heard of the birth control pill.
Seriously,
But we're not going to bring that up.
Kirstie, Travolta, pull out. Come on. I know you got it in you.
I like, look, they clarify what is actually happening very quickly and that there are some time jumps happening within edits. But if the movie were to end 4 minutes earlier, you could read it as the second John Travolta kisses Kirstie Alley, he comes in his pants. There is. Instead, they then cut to a delivery room and you're like, okay, some leaps have been made.
Look who's just in
Look who's just in now.
Who's talking? This is the kind of movie where I'm like, it's great for blank check because we can do a bunch of tangents and still not go that long because it's 90 blessed minutes and it's not a lot of action, really.
It's not streaming. You got to buy it. You got to rent it.
I bought it
Got
on iTunes.
I got an out-of-print Blu-ray.
Griffin is off mic telling us that he has an out-of-print Blu-ray of just the first one.
The 30th anniversary. This was fairly recent, 2019, and still out of print. Yeah, so then I had to buy a DVD trilogy box set for
the
2 and
others.
3, which is also
What
out
are
of
some of the
print.
special features we're talking?
It's a great question. On this one,
For Look Who's Talking
of
Now, I
course-
see an apology.
this has a Heckerling commentary, which I missed. Maybe we'll give Look Who's Talking a second watch. I think the DVDs have checking here nothing,
Oh.
absolutely nothing for.
There
the
were no
sequels.
deleted scenes because everything hit.
Yeah.
Nothing was left.
Yeah, I did read some interesting. Look Who's Talking 2 has one of those like weird fabled. The TV cut of the movie has 20 extra minutes in it.
It's longer?
Yes, they would do this if movies were like too short. In order to fill a larger programming block, the studios would offer to cut back in deleted scenes to allow the film to justify more ad breaks.
Right. Yeah. And right. Most of the scenes are stupid. Right.
And Look Who's Talking 2, they sound insane. Yeah.
In 2010, did you know that Neil H. Moritz of Fast and Furious tried to reboot this movie
It makes perfect sense. I had the
with
thought,
Travolta and Alley as the grandparents?
Oh,
I had the thought while
that
watching
bums
this.
me out.
It is crazy they have not revived this. Like 4 years later, they hired Jeremy Gerlich, who wrote The Breakup and a lot of other studio comedies, to write it. And then nothing has happened since then.
Well, like Baby Geniuses was a pretty big bomb. Like maybe talking our
Yeah.
audience for talking babies, I think, was
But even
sated,
then,
or
that's-
our appetite for it was sated.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
And I feel like you could reset the table with a good Look Who's Talking movie.
Okay, I think I have a pitch.
Okay.
Give it to me.
It's like a prequel.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Look Who's Talked. And it's set like generations ago. And you can make it old timey.
Look who hath been talking.
And, and when you say it, what?
But I think more needs to be said.
You can't just be the like who. So, but then what
Who
what
are
do we
the
see?
central characters in the
It's going back generationally.
I understand, Ben.
in this
you made
family?
that
In
clear.
this family.
Yeah, like
Okay.
it's the baby, but or Kirstie Alley's ancestors.
Mhm.
And what do they do apart from talk?
The baby talk.
Pick a time period.
Okay, so
Pick
it's
a
sort
time
of like
period.
19th century.
Well, because I liked the Hath, so let's set it in the Renaissance.
Okay.
and the kid's like, that Mona Lisa sure looks like
You
she's following me
you
around.
can't make this movie too far ago, like in the past, because of maternal mortality rates.
Yeah, it would be a little grim. It'd be like,
And
oh,
infant mortality, to be fair.
Hope I dodged that dysentery or whatever.
Right, a baby's
Right.
born and suddenly becomes the 5th oldest person in the town.
But I like that then if it's set in Italy, he still's got that accent.
Oh, that's true.
well,
He could be like, Mamma Mia,
Look
dysentery.
who's talking.
God, he's saving the pitch. He's winning us back in the room. It's one of these things that, like, you're like, I can't believe they haven't rebooted it yet. I can't believe they haven't remade it yet in a sort of modern studio thinking where you're just like, if you're just looking through the books, right? And you're like, wait a second, these movies made like $400 million 30 years ago, and we haven't done anything since. And the premise is so clean. But as you said, I do feel like these movies are completely forgotten now. I think basically everyone younger than us doesn't know they exist.
I think you're entirely
I
right.
think we were the exact generation of kids who were born right as they were coming out and saw them on TV. And anyone 5 years younger than us is just like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
I texted various friends being like, hey, did you know what this movie was about? Like, with what I bet, like the Harold Ramis stuff. And all of them were like, I've never seen it. Like, even the ones who are sort
Wait,
of
even the
aware of
ones
it.
who were like in their 30s?
Even your Esther Zuckermans, who's a little younger than us, Hillary, but not that
Esther
much younger.
could write an entire book about this movie.
She could.
There's a lot to say.
Esther was kind of like, yeah, that wasn't actually one of our movies. So it was never in the rotation. And so it's been forgotten. This whole movie feels like it's been memory hold. Obviously, Heckerling makes Clueless after it. So that becomes her 90s masterpiece. Yeah, I don't know. Travolta makes Pulp Fiction after it. So that's his, his great era begins later.
But yet,
Kirstie Alley went on to Fat Actress.
Yeah. This is
Just crazy.
Or a couple of stops along the way.
She opened the closet.
But this is far and away Heckerling's biggest hit.
Maybe that says more about movie-going audiences
probably.
than the
Possibly.
quality of the movies.
But this is her only movie to make 100 million domestic, and it flew past that.
It flew past it to 140 domestic. It made 300 worldwide.
It does help to make a movie that's ostensibly a family movie. Like, I'm sure that a lot of parents were taking their kids to this thinking that it would be a kid's movie.
Despite it being
And that's the pleasant surprise.
PG-13.
Is that
Oh, it's PG-13? That makes sense.
Yeah, it opens with sperm.
Well, you don't see them coming from a penis.
You know what? I'll say even the third one is
I've got a
PG-13.
pretty active imagination.
The third one is PG-13 for, quote, off-color language.
The film came out October 13th, 1989.
Mm-hmm.
Number one at the box office. It opens to $12 million, and then it has insane legs.
It just rides out the whole holiday season, basically.
It is
right?
number one at the box office for 5 consecutive weeks, making basically the same amount of money every week.
That's like, it was like the Barbie of its
Yeah.
moment. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It was a
Its
huge,
cultural
huge hit.
impact was similar.
Yeah. The tie-ins were insane.
Number 2 at the box office is also new. It is a horror film.
Okay.
It is
First,
a sequel.
well, in one of the big franchises?
In one of the big 3 slasher franchises. It is the 5th film.
Is it The Dream Child?
That is not what it is.
Fuck.
But that film did come out in, I believe, 89. So, you're in the right ballpark.
You must tip your hat and admit it was a gentleman's guess. That's all I'm asking of you. Okay. Is it, thank you. Is it The Curse of Michael Myers?
It is Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. Of course, The Curse is the 6th one.
As everyone
which
knows.
is the insane one that's like Michael Myers is who he is because a cult worships him.
Right. And
or whatever.
Is that the Rudd one?
The sixth one is the Rudd
That's
one. The
the
fifth one
ruddiest
is
of all.
the fifth one is the one with Jamie, played by Danielle Harris,
Right.
who
Okay.
has her fans in the Scream Queen
Yes.
Scream Queen world.
Yes.
The sixth one is the one that hilariously ends with Donald Pleasance off mic being like, "Oh, you're like killing me or something. Who knows what's going on?" Like because they like couldn't figure out what the ending should be. Ah, get away from me!
That rules.
Yeah, we'll do them someday.
Maybe movies should get worse
I
again.
mean, when you're watching Halloween's 4, 5, and 6, you're like, hey, man, there's nothing wrong with being a 4 out of 10 movie.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Or in Alex Ross Perry's opinion, a 15 out of 10 movie.
Number 3 at the box office is a thriller that was also a bit of a comeback for a 70s Oscar-nominated star
It's a
who
thriller.
had taken a bit of a break.
We're taking a break.
But there are no babies talking in this movie.
Is it Sea of Love?
It's Al Pacino in Sea of Love.
This is a big thing that David and I bond on, as we both hold the importance of Sea of Love as a comeback moment for Pacino.
Pacino was back.
People don't talk about it, but quietly, that was his big swing back.
You could say
it was.
that Sea of Love was the name of the title sequence for Look Who's Talking.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
is
Well,
very true.
Hillary,
That is how many?
100 comedy points.
100 cum points.
I said comedy,
and
but
I
I
said-
mumbled
I
it.
don't want that.
Sorry.
I don't accept this.
Fine, return them. They're good at all major stores. Excuse me, I have 100 cum points from Blank Check. Yes, of course. Welcome to Bed Bath & Beyond. Does that still exist, Bed Bath & Beyond, or is it gone?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
I mean, not an industry city, but
You can buy bath bombs, which are, let's admit it, one of the cummier products around.
Number 4.
How else would you describe what a bath bomb does?
I don't, not that way,
I wouldn't
honestly.
use
Okay.
cummy.
I would say comedy.
Number 4 at the box office is another thriller. Not one that I know. Starring a guy who's more of a TV star. Yeah, he plays an airline mechanic sent to prison when framed by crooked police officers.
Drama or comedy TV star?
Drama.
Is it a Selleck?
Tom Selleck.
It is.
Who the
wow.
fuck is that? Well, good guess.
Thank you. This is the beautiful mind in here.
Yeah, it's a something mind.
Okay. Is it called like Hijack?
It's a Peter Yates film, so kind of a real director.
Yeah.
Director of Bullet, obviously,
Uh-huh.
and other, good movies. It's called An Innocent Man. Not a movie I know. It looks like Tom Selleck plays an innocent man, and you've got F. Murray Abraham as someone called Virgil Caine. I bet that's a nice guy. Think that guy's nice, Griffin?
Well, Virgil Caine was a man, right? Isn't that the name of the fucking guy in the...
Band song.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
believe so.
there you go. I mean,
Okay.
it's a rich gumbo, obviously. Number 5 at the box office, dropping from number 1 the week before. So a bit of a steep drop for this film, which is a very chill and normal movie about a cop who's not weird going to a country where he fits in just fine.
I'm sorry. Can you restate that one more time?
It's another thriller. I
Uh-huh.
mean, it's October, I guess.
Cop who's
Another
not
like
weird.
R-rated thriller. It's just
Goes to a country where he's
it's
not?
what if a US cop went to a foreign country to solve a crime and he has to like get used to their underworld and their way of doing business.
It's not like Black Rain.
It's Ridley Scott's
It's
Black
Ridley Scott's
Rain
Black
with
Rain.
Michael Douglas.
Okay.
And also I'm seeing here a little co-star called Cocaine is here. Second build. Number 2 on the call sheet is Coke, bricks of Coke.
Kind of surprised not one, but
That is a movie where Andy Garcia gets decapitated on screen with a katana. Spoiler alert. Good movie.
Damn it.
You should watch it. It will still rock when that happens.
wait, why is the rain black?
I don't think it is. It's just one of those movies where they're like, wow, Japan is so crazy. And you're like, relax.
Ben, you should Google the poster for Black Rain, which looks like if someone did the world's longest line of cocaine and then
This is what I'm
sneezed
saying.
onto a one
This is
sheet.
what I'm saying. Number 6 at the box office, new this week, is my mother's favorite movie of all time.
Fabulous Baker Boys?
The Fabulous Baker Boys. A great movie.
Uh-huh.
Do you like the Fabulous Baker Boys?
I don't know.
Hillary,
them.
you would
Ooh.
love it.
Why are
Jeff-
they so fabulous?
You
Tell
gotta
me.
They
meet the
are
boys,
Jeff
Hillary.
and Bo
Give
Bridges.
her the pitch.
Jeff and Bo Bridges play slightly washed up lounge act, double act, piano bar guys. Michelle Pfeiffer plays like the new lady they hire for her act who sort of gets in between them romantically. She got an Oscar nomination. My mother was charmed and watches it anytime it's on TV. Her 2 favorite movies are that and I Know Where I'm Going,
Did you
the Powell and Pressburger movie.
folks see Bill Maher's segment?
No, absolutely not.
No.
look, I usually don't fall for the trap.
What did Bill Maher do now?
He did a segment complaining about, since when are they called sex workers? Which is, let me say,
I love how he's mad about like language thoughts that happened 10 years ago. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not even new.
he got angry watching the Oscars and hearing all the winners from Honora constantly thank the sex worker community.
And
he
so
went,
for a month, he's been thinking about this.
correct.
doing.
I'm also like a little funny for Bill Maher, someone who perhaps has helped that industry thrive.
Again, no comment. No, I don't know. I mean,
I don't know, allegedly.
kind of vibe.
But he like calls out the, in his mind, weird history of how many actresses have won Oscars for playing sex workers or been nominated. And he lists a bunch. And one of the ones he included was Michelle Pfeiffer in The Fabulous Baker
What?
Boys. And he had like 20 other inclusions in that where I'm just like, what do you think sex work is?
You would think he would have a set definition.
I would think he of anyone would
Might.
have the clearest definition. But he
I think maybe she's a former escort in that movie. Maybe there is something to that.
he just
yes.
starts getting really fungible with
Well,
some
I'll
of them.
just say that if this segment
He's like Olympia Dukakis.
is
in
him
Moonstruck.
Yes.
yes, sir, is him going, new rule, you got to give me more than a week to get used to a new phrase. Like, this is his...
And everyone's like, Bill, it's been a decade.
and he's like, we did this with homeless and now it's unhoused. And I'm
Yes.
just like, can you relax?
I'm like, who gives a shit?
You
Fuck
are on
you.
television.
Shut the fuck up. No one is policing you.
Bill Maher. So Fabulous Baker Boys number 6. Parenthood is number 7. A sort of also, if you want a slightly more mature film about parenting.
A slightly more mature film with the world's catchiest diarrhea song. Yeah. That movie's good.
There's a lot more pregnancy.
great.
There's a lot more pregnancy movies than like actual parenting movies.
This is true.
Interesting. Well, there's lots of movies where parenting is a plot element, but
But
right,
not
but like movies
essential.
about parenting,
I mean,
not
I think
so
it's,
many.
it's probably because working with child actors is not
That's true.
at the top of
That's
anybody's
hard.
list. But
Yeah, that's right.
pregnancy has a natural arc also.
Mhm.
It does.
It has a beginning, it has an end.
But even like Tully, whatever that was 5 years ago, is treated as a bit of a novelty.
Tully was interesting, right? Because it was about early motherhood and how it breaks your brain, and it's not in enough movies and all that. Yeah.
That movie just shouldn't have a twist.
No.
I give that movie a full star higher rating.
Oh wait,
Yeah.
the camera's moving again. I'm hearing somebody. Tully has been added to the cast of Avengers
Dun, 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 dun. Which one?
Who knows?
It is really unfortunate when like novelists and screenwriters learned about postpartum psychosis because that just really gives you an easy out.
Right, that you can just do a twist. Right. Number 8 at the box office, Uncle Buck.
Ben.
Love. One of my faves.
My former roommate, Molly's favorite movie. Speaking of people in my live's favorite movies.
I
Amy
have,
Heckerling's daughter, Molly.
Yep.
I have to
No.
unfortunately credit an anonymous poster who I can't remember, but just the commenter on some fucking movie website 10 years ago said, why does Uncle Buck have the mise-en-scène of a 1940s Fritz Lang Fox noir? And it has stuck in my brain forever. That movie is like weirdly moody and darkly lit in a way that I give 2 thumbs up.
Number 9 at the box office, When Harry Met Sally. Heard of it?
No, still hanging in there.
Hanging in there after 14 weeks. And new at number 10, possibly the greatest film ever made by this filmmaker, who's made a couple movies and had some other stuff going on with him. Woody Allen's Crimes and Misdemeanors.
Yeah, definitely one of his best.
Yep.
A couple things I want to call out here from
But
the
it's new this
dossier.
week in 66 theaters. Kirstie Alley's character probably would have gone to seen it. Travolta, I don't think so.
Yes.
Right.
A couple things I want to call out
Travolta
here.
wants things with explosions.
Yeah.
This was conclusively Columbia's highest grossing film overseas. They had never had a film perform this well outside of America. It usurped Kramer versus Kramer.
Wow.
Well, it must be really easy to dub the baby in other languages.
This is the other thing I want to build to. Travolta gets credit for this idea that he was like, you should stunt cast the baby in every country. So every country, they found some kind of Bruce Willis analog where they're like, who's a beloved sort of rapscallion, cool, bad boy, funny star. And you could put their name above the title, and it's a fucking really smart business strategy.
You're minting money.
Yes, it was like the key to this movie's success. All of that to say, it is very funny that when Heckerling was first pitching the movie to Sony, according to JJ's notes here, her first suggestion for the voice of the baby was Tommy Smothers of the Smothers
Hell
Brothers.
yeah. All right. Well, you know, she's still got a little old school in her.
Right. And their note was like, he is funny. Can we get someone that people also like care about?
Come
you
one,
get-
come all.
Right. As
Tommy
she puts
Smothers.
it, I was missing that he needed to be funny and cool.
In Look Who's Talking To, of course,
Uh-huh.
Willis is joined by Roseanne Barr.
Yes,
as
Roseanne
the
Barr
girl.
replaces Joan Rivers.
And then Damon Wayans plays like
His
a
best
kid
friend.
at the school, at nursery school or something.
He's
Right.
Mikey's best friend. And then you also have what I remember being the best performance in the film, Mel Brooks as Mr. Toilet.
This is a talking
So there's a lot
toilet.
of potty training stuff
Correct.
in Look Who's Talking To. Mm-hmm.
And I just want to
I've
repeat,
been in those trenches.
in my memory from 30 years ago, Look Who's Talking To might be the funniest movie ever made.
If Mel Brooks is voicing a toilet,
I'm laughing already.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
In Toy Story, is he a chair?
No, he's Melephant Brooks.
Oh, he's the elephant. That's right.
it's like
Right.
him and Carl Reiner. There's like a whole bunch.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to remember
Right.
who was which.
right.
Yes.
She, Cheryl Burnett.
Fuck.
Or Carl Rhino.
He's Carl Rhinoceros.
Yeah.
Good
There you
pull,
go.
Hillary.
They're in the closet.
And
they
then-
don't get
I didn't
played
actually
with.
remember. I was just thinking puns. But
Betty White is a teething ring. She's Bitey White.
Right. And it's
that one's a
interesting.
little more tortured.
And it's interesting just because Betty White didn't really work a lot at that age. So it's sort of interesting that she made the cast list there.
You know what remains one of the funniest things
No,
in
God
the world?
bless. Salute to Betty White. She did it.
Like $100 million and every bit of like media machinery being devoted to Betty White's 100th birthday and then her dying 1 week before that. When like every magazine in the country was like, congrats, Betty, you made it to 100 and then she died.
Do you think it was pointed?
Yeah, she was like, fuck you. You don't control me.
I don't need this.
Yeah,
Um,
I won't conform to your narrative.
Ben has just sent a text. We can buy an autographed laser disc of Look Who's Talking for the low price of $911. Never forget.
Autographed by whom?
Kirstie Alley,
Okay.
Amy Heckerling, some other people.
Twink.
Twink.
Twink's on there.
Twink Kaplan signs her name with an exclamation point.
As she should. What's her actual name?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, it's probably not Twink.
It was a different time.
Oh,
It
yeah.
didn't
Maybe
necessarily-
Maybe it's short for something.
Her real name was Bear Kaplan.
I don't get it.
This was a joke about Twinks versus bears.
Oh,
Otter
I
Kaplan.
get it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this-
obviously.
this naming
This
differences.
is making
I'm
it-
not finding a real name for
I'm
her.
not
Oh.
either.
Wow.
Yeah.
Twink
surprise.
Kaplan was born in Pennsylvania. Interesting. Hillary, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Long overdue. Anything?
Well, the listeners don't know who I am, but
hey, wrong.
I have it all, including their attention.
You have it all.
She occasionally got a film credit as Theodora Kaplan, so some people think that might be her.
Some people, the truthers.
Okay.
There's a community.
The Kaplan truthers. Yeah. Hillary, is there anything specific you want to plug?
Oh, I mean, come to vanityfair.com where I'm editing things every single day.
Thank God for that.
Yes, absolutely. Hillary finally got on the show. It's been far too long.
Far too long.
Hillary's been really mad
have,
at me that she
you have
hasn't been
all
on
the
show.
power here.
I know.
Do you
This
me-
was your
I know.
choice.
I distinctly remember meeting you for the first time, Hillary. Even meeting you too late, having too many mutual friends, and having heard of you and being a fan of your writing for a while. But after we were at the same screening of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and you just standing
Just
up
say
and
that after you entered the multiverse.
after you entered the Multiverse of Madness, which has
Collectively.
the end credit sequence,
Mhm.
as shocking as Joan Rivers voicing a baby at
my
the end
God.
of Look Who's
When
Talking.
Clea appears.
Right. And I just remember you standing up and going, am I supposed to know who that is?
Classic Hillary.
That does sound like me.
Yeah, it was really good. It was a distinctive moment. Thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Tune in next week for Look Who's Talking 2.
Yep. Made at a Scream 2-esque pace. It came out literally 364 days later or whatever. Like so fast.
They're Irish
Yes.
twins.
They're
They're Irish.
the
No, I think
movies
that-
are Irish
Yes,
twins.
yeah.
Yes.
14 months later. Okay.
Yeah. And I just want to, and as always, read an important quote here from the dossier. Special effects artist masters on the most difficult shot to pull off. Quote, it was my first use of visual effects. We called them electronic effects. We had one shot that took us 115 takes to get. It was little Mikey playing with his placenta. It required 12 puppeteers. People were hanging upside down.
What an achievement.
Worth it.
Blank Check with Griffin and David is hosted by Griffin Newman and David Sims. Our executive producer is me, Ben Hosley. Our creative producer is Marie Barty Salinas, and our associate producer is AJ McKeon. This show is mixed and edited by AJ McKeon and Alan Smithy. Research by JJ Birch. Our theme song is by Lane Montgomery and the Great American Novel, with additional music by Alex Mitchell. Artwork by Joe Bowen, Ollie Moss, and Pat Reynolds. Our production assistant is Minnick. Special thanks to David Cho, Jordan Fish, and Nate Patterson for their production help. Head over to blankcheckpod.com for links to all of the real nerdy shit. Join our Patreon, Blank Check Special Features, for exclusive franchise commentaries and bonus episodes. Follow us on social at Blank Check Pod. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, Checkbook, on Substack. This podcast is created and produced by Blank Check Productions.